You're watching the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network. Now it's time for the Brent Austen Show.
Wow, there's a box I didn't anticipate seeing this morning. Brent Baalke, Doug Peterson, Ryan Nielsen, Press Taylor. If you could pick one, I think Doug would be the guy, right?
Yes. Yep.
It is interesting, really, if you look at this that shot. Obviously, there's not a lot of backers for Baalke and definitely Nielsen, and obviously Press Taylor. I mean, really, Peterson. We had heard some rumblings that maybe again go back to the scenarios of a couple of weeks ago as the Jags lose to Indianapolis, and one of the scenarios is, hey, Baalke goes, Doug stays, maybe coordinators changed, those kind of things. And I think to some, Shad surprised people with the Baalke remain. Well, some, to everybody. But if it was going to pick one,
right,
that Baalke, even internally, I think there was some surprise. Like, wait a minute, it wasn't this way? And, of course, that's what everybody was looking for, a reset. Delphonic, sorry for the loss of weekly Venmo payments. Hopefully I get one more. Those had kind of stopped anyway. But Delphonic, too. I was thinking of Delphonic yesterday because we jumped on and did breaking news yesterday when Baalke got let go. And we obviously had the show yesterday, and I could not figure out. There was a time during this, we were getting a ton of messages in both shows. And Delphonic had said something to the effect of, sorry for...
Yeah, he put the graphic up, or the meme of you and Baselli as puppets in Baalke's arm.
Oh, is that what he was apologizing for that? See, I didn't know. I saw something like sorry, and I didn't know what he was talking about. And then I tried to go back and find it, and I could not find it on the YouTube chat. So, yeah, we're playing in the snow during the break. Hey, that's pretty cool. You were playing in the snow during the breaking news. You should have wrote DTWD, Duval till we die. But so anyway, don't apologize for the Baselli and Baalke and Brent,
the three
the
Bs.
killer bees, who many would like to kill sometimes. Hey, good news this morning. Jags finally get to put out a good release.
First time in a while.
Brian Thomas Jr., he is an AP Offensive Rookie of the Year finalist. Now, he won't win that, we don't think, right? Jaden Daniels going to win that.
Yep.
But, hey, be a finalist was pretty cool. I'll tell you what, this is the first guy I can remember. Maybe Josh Allen had a little of this. Remember, he had a big year, 10.5 sacks. I think Brian Thomas Jr. is the first guy that I can remember in a while. And Jalen Ramsey, too, I guess should go back to, but it still would be a while. That is really getting love from around the league. Like getting attention from around all the second half of this year, he really got a lot of attention, and really all year he was the guy that people were talking about and raving about and saying, "Wow, look at this guy!" Right from the jump against Ramsey in the Miami game. So I don't know if I think it's Josh had a little bit of that, but probably overshadowed by the Calaises and even Jans and those kind of guys during his 10.5 sack season his rookie year. And Jalen definitely had this. Like Jalen was the guy people were talking about. So Brian Thomas Jr. So from an offensive perspective, I can't remember the last time an offensive guy rookie was being talked about like this. I mean, Trevor would have been talked about a lot, but he obviously didn't perform that rookie year in a bad year with Urban Meyer. So. Man, it's unbelievable. Brian Thomas Jr. And, of course, if you missed this part, I didn't say it, but he is going to the Pro Bowl. And I think that was expected with Zay Jones' injury. There were some folks that thought maybe a Jamar Chase could even back out, but Zay Flowers is out. And now Brian Thomas Jr. is in, so congratulations. And this is what I always say. He might not have been voted in right away, but we don't care about that. We won't remember that. He should have been in. We think he should have been even over a guy like Zay Flowers, with all due respect. Should have been in, I think, over guys like even Jerry Jeudy.
Right.
But he's in, and it goes on the resume. And it does. Nobody goes back and says, oh, yeah, he was first alternate because of the. Nobody does that. So congratulations to Brian Thomas Jr. What a way to cap off a heck of a rookie year. Well earned, by the way, to get into that Pro Bowl games. Well earned to be Offensive Rookie of the Year finalist. And, hey, next coach coming in. Call Liam Coen up and say, look, you got this guy and you got Trevor. Trevor, call him up. Call Liam Coen. You got this and this. That's not bad. Not bad stuff to work with, right? As we start to turn the page, Brian Thomas Jr., fantastic for him. Yeah. Do you know if alternate still counts a Pro Bowl? So absolutely. Yeah, it does. I mean, keep in mind, David Garrard's a Pro Bowler. He was like a 7th or 8th alternate, like one year. He was a Pro Bowler. And Trevor was an alternate Pro Bowler. Like, that goes on the resume. Now, here in town, if you want to be like, oh, well, it didn't get it because, like, nobody looks at it that way. If Fred Taylor had 5 of those and made it in because he was an alternate, then, hey, I think he's already in the Hall of Fame because he's got the 5 Pro Bowls. Mm-hmm. So nobody asks you that, which is good. Fletch says Minshew was highly discussed rookie.
Off the field stuff.
Yeah, that's fair. He's highly discussed, but I don't necessarily think praised on the prowess of his play. Say that a few times. But you're right. You're right. And there was fun. That was fun around Gardner Minshew.
Brent, was the reaction yesterday to your expectation? I thought we would have some more videos of some celebrations in neighborhoods and in the streets.
Oh, that's interesting.
I thought, it was huge.
Well, it was cold.
Well, yeah. The coldness hampered the party.
I think so.
After the news, I was expecting at some point to see somebody down at the stadium doing something funny, somebody in this neighborhood, maybe a couple fireworks being shot off. Fireworks maybe at this time also maybe not the best idea, but it was huge. I just thought it would have been even bigger. But the infatuation with this guy, I don't know if it was enough.
Yeah. Buck's Basement says, by the way, Tampa has Evans, Godwin, Bucky Irving, Rashad White, hell of an offensive line, Kate Otten. Tampa more desirable than Jacksonville.
So it's $8 more million.
Yeah, so it's the ability to have a team, and it's your team, and it's your building. We're going to get into that in just a little bit. But listen, I'm not telling you Tampa's a bad spot. Tampa could really work out for Liam Coen. I think a lot of people I said this yesterday. I think Liam Coen made a mistake, and I still believe that. But he's got a chance potentially to have second thoughts about that. So we'll get into that. And it's a debatable thing. I'm not sitting here telling, but the bottom line is when you get a chance to do 1 to 32, it's hard to pass it up. And I'm not telling you that people haven't passed it up. And Ben Johnson most recently, hey, good decision, pass it up. But this is not like you're walking, hey, listen, you want to pass up the Raiders job because you don't know what your quarterback's going to be. You don't like the quarterbacks in this draft, all those things. That's one thing. But listen, we know Ben Johnson liked Trevor Lawrence. If Ben Johnson liked Trevor Lawrence and Doug Peterson liked Trevor Lawrence and Urban Meyer liked Trevor Lawrence, my guess is Liam Cohen's looking at Trevor Lawrence like, hey, I can work with that, right? So I think it's fine that he's back there. I think there's plenty of debate though to be like, hey, this ain't bad either now. Mm-hmm. This ain't bad. So we'll see. We'll talk about that part. Can you go back and get them? We obviously did a little bit yesterday, talk more about it. But to answer your question, I think it's a good question. And I can only give you this experience. And this was wild to me. And I said this during our breaking news show yesterday. I went out to the newsroom when I saw this. I was actually on the phone in here in this studio and talking to somebody about the Jags situation. And I actually got another call, so I had to get off. I called this person back, and then they got a call. And as they're getting a call, we see it. It starts to go. And I was like, oh. So I go out. I'm trying to confirm it, get confirmation from the Jags. Statement comes down from Shad Khan, walking out to the newsroom. And newsrooms, would have been about 3 o'clock yesterday. So that's when you're starting to kind of get your shows ready for the 4 and the 5 and everything else. And the newsroom was like, when I said it out loud, they literally cheered. Like, these are people that...
Most of them are not sports.
No, they're not sports fans. Like, arms, I saw arms go up in the air like this and like vocal cheering in the newsroom for, like, I joke around. I'm like, hey, when we have to write a tease for sports, they say we don't know anything about sports. You have to write it. Like, I was stunned by the reaction of our newsroom. Like, I really was. And so then to your point, I said, I think then you get the text and everybody else is reacting in such a way. Now, there was another angry side of the reaction.
Sure.
Too late, too little, too late, too little, which, and again, I'm adamant about it wasn't too late. Mm-hmm. It's not too late. Too late is another year. Let the contract go by. 3 years down the road, too late. I will always say this about Shad Khan and Urban Meyer. Shad Khan's trend and pattern had been to be loyal and give time and patience. If he had done that with Trevor Lawrence and Urban Meyer, Trevor would maybe already be done. Mm-hmm. Like pulling the plug on that, and I know Urban gave him reason to do it, but it wasn't Shad's MO to pull the plug on that. And so for him to do that was, I think, a big move at the time because you can get too late.
Which means you're giving Shad some credit.
I do give him credit for that. He had, by the way, that was his call.
Right.
There's another part of this, and I've had some conversations with some folks the last couple of days, and I think they bring up a good point. When you're a guy that's used to making a lot of probably good business decisions and everything else, when you're the guy that solely went after Urban Meyer,
right,
to then look in the mirror and say, I made a mistake. Like, I got to change this. I can't let this go, right? I can't see if it's going to work out. To actually pull that and admit that, I bet is more difficult at times than you think. And was he doing that a little bit with Trent Baalke? Like, hey, I know I don't think you guys are right. Like, and by the way, I don't think he's listening to everything. I'm just saying the advice he got or the this that he got or the coaches coming. We have no idea the conversations. I'm just saying from the outside looking in, it's like, why are you hanging on to this, right? I mean, we asked it yesterday on the show. What are you doing? I talked to people around the league this week. Why is he not seeing this? What is he seeing that we're not seeing? Why isn't he seeing what we're all seeing, what the league is seeing? But I do think at some point you're the smartest guy because you're the billionaire guy and you own the team, and I'm going to do it my way. And we've seen other guys do it this way. Jerry Jones, 2 others. And it doesn't make it right. So I do think you have to be willing to admit mistake, admit wrong. And for a billionaire and that kind of power to do that, I think, I'm not sure credit is the right word. I just think it can be harder than people think, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the fans, if we do a poll every week, they want to fire a different guy.
Sure.
Right? Like, everybody wants to fire. Hey, Billy Napier, how you guys doing in Gatorland?
Right.
Thought he was gone. Mm-hmm. Like, he was gone. Well, you're not saying that now. Right? Well, give credit to Scott Strickland for not making the move when you wanted to make the move.
If they would have lost last night, at which they should have, they would have been probably asking for Todd Golden.
Yeah, I doubt it. I mean, they're still 16-3 if they lose. But that's the point. That's what you have to wade through is, okay, how much noise. Now, listen, I am not defending how long this went with Bo. This was obvious. Mm-hmm. And he had a chance 2 Mondays ago to be able to do it, and it made absolute sense to do it, and he kept them. And it set this up, and it was dumb. It became impossible to defend, as we said, that Monday and ever since. So this isn't a defense. I just thought it was an interesting point. I don't know if credit is the thing. These are part of the decision-making things you do as a person in charge.
Right.
I don't know if you get credit for that. You certainly can get blamed for it, but I'm not sure credit. It's your job to make the right decisions and make this organization better. That is part of the reason you own the football team and you're in these meetings making decisions, unless you're going to be hands-off completely and give it to somebody else to make those decisions. And that's not the case here. So, yeah, I think it takes a little something to be able to admit wrongdoing. And this one, for whatever reason, he had been hooked to Baalke, and he had to finally do it. And Delphonic says the noise from all the national media after Coen stated was loud. It was. And I'll be critical of this. I don't think Shad should have to listen to all the shows in town. Okay? He's got a lot of different things going on. But I don't understand why it takes national media for him to get attention. We're living it every day. We've been telling him for years. We're writing articles about it. Like, and not just me, and I'm not saying me. Like, I don't need to be the guy he listens to. But the bottom line is, I do not know why it takes a couple of folks in the national media for him to listen. And that's a problem. Like, that should not be the case. Because quite frankly, I'm not sure these guys in the national media know much more than any of us hanging around. They just get stuff fed to them. But it finally is like, oh, wait a minute, it's outside the city limits. It must be a big deal. This is embarrassing. As soon as it hits the New York Times, it's embarrassing. Not if it's in the Florida Times Union.
Yeah.
Right? Like, for some reason, because I think he lives in that big grand world, which is a global world, it does not hit him when it's said on CBS 47 or Action Sports Jax or other stations and in the Florida Times Union. He's not bothered by it. It doesn't get his attention. It's not big enough. It takes until people are saying it, but honestly, I would say people have been saying this for quite some time, so I don't know who he needs to hear it from. Like, I don't know which outlet, but it did feel like that, Delphonic. Like, finally the noise was up. There were a couple of folks nationally that said, he's the only one not paying attention. Mm-hmm. Well, shoot. I mean, we've been saying that for at least 2.5 weeks, but 2.5 years probably.
Sure.
Like, he's the only one not listening to this. I said it yesterday during the show after the Coen stuff. All he has to do is pick up the phone and call 4 coaches around the league. And within 2 or 3 minutes, he'll get what everybody's saying. Then the national guys did say it, and it was like, wait. Again, how much the timing of that was part of it, I don't know. Maybe he was coming to he might have just been flat out pissed off after the Coen thing. Mm-hmm. And I've told you this, too. Now, listen, Shad's smart. Do I think he made the decision because of the national media? No. I just do think it sometimes perks the ears up a little bit when everybody else is talking about it.
Right, so you dig a little deeper.
For us, if he hears it in Jacksonville, it's noise. But if he hears it outside, it's like, oh, there's some, it just feels like there's some credence to it, which, again, I don't fully understand all that. But I also don't necessarily think he solely made the decision off that. I think he saw it, too. When Coen was, wait a minute, you don't have to be a billionaire and an owner to figure out, wait a minute, this guy who had one opportunity and we don't get him. And like I said yesterday, I think what doomed Baalke more yesterday than maybe anything else was the process. They were not lined up to go after Ben Johnson. They were not lined up to go after Liam Coen before Tampa came and rescued him back because they couldn't offer a job to those guys. They had not even completed the Rooney Rule, which they probably will do today with Patrick Graham. So I think as much as all the noise and the getting shunned by Coen and Johnson taking Chicago, I really think, I said it yesterday, I think the thing that's going to doom Baalke might be the process because he's leading the search. And then what did we say yesterday? Oh, no, he also screwed up the Armstead stuff and he screwed up free agency and he also, the plan that was supposed to be in place. Like, there's now a lot of evidence, and there was already, but now there's even more for Shad to be like, whoa, what are we doing here?
Right.
You, what are you doing? Why can't we make an offer to this guy? And they didn't have their ducks in a row to be able to do it, where Chicago did, and obviously Tampa didn't need ducks in a row. They just made the offer once they heard the noise. But you couldn't get ahead of Tampa on this front.
Yeah, to me, it seems like Shad has probably learned a good bit in the last 24 to 48 hours, and it wouldn't surprise me if he was surprised that Coen wouldn't interview because we're not surprised. I mean, we're a little bit surprised that Coen wouldn't take the interview, but we know why.
Oh, we're stunned. I'm still stunned that he didn't take the second interview.
But that would have been 10 times the blind side for Shad, who, because he kept him, thinks that he's a good GM and couldn't have understood why anybody wouldn't want to talk to him. That's why a little bit of me wants to, as much as I kind of want to give Shad a little credit, but just because I know how stubborn some of the other owners in the NFL can be. Like, he came out publicly and, put his vote of confidence behind Trent in that press conference to be able to at least at some point within the same off season say, I was wrong. Understand that everybody, the entire national media, local media and national media, is calling us a dysfunctional franchise from the top down, and I'm the top, so I'm going to stick my hand up and say, look, I got it wrong again. It was hard enough with Urban. I think this one was harder.
Yeah, I do too. I also, look, some people are saying, hey, was there any chance he was dragging his feet? Baalke was to set the table for Saleh. Yeah, there was. Like, the bottom line is what you hear about. That's what always makes me laugh. I love Pete Prisco, and Prisco will deliver this. And Prisco hammering Baalke anytime. It's like, well, Prisco, he lives up to your motto. What's good for me is good for me. Like, that's the Baalke problem. Baalke looks after Baalke. That's why for months we've been saying, who's looking after the organization, right? So, no shot at Prisco, by the way, just a little fun, but he's always said that. Like, he always said, hey, what's good for me is good for me. Or it's players, coaches, whatever else. Well, Baalke lived up to that. Like, that's what he does. He's a game of survival in the NFL. That's the problem. That's why people don't trust him, because he's always looking after himself. So in your scenario is possibility that, yeah, he's slow playing this thing to get to a Salah or even Coen. I think he misplayed Coen. I think he thought he could have had Coen.
Right.
Who wouldn't think he could have had Coen?
Well, I think they both think they could have. Shad definitely thinks they could have been Johnson.
Well, I think he thought he could, and,
Well, let me ask you,
by the way, I don't think I would. I get Shad if he wasn't comfortable throwing money at a guy, and again, they wouldn't have been able to because of the Rooney Rule stuff, but even throwing money at a guy or anything else without even in-person interviewing.
Okay.
Like, that was a weird process.
Right.
And so I think, Shad, if you're going to have 10 interviews, you're not going to come out of the 10 interviews and then say, I don't even need to meet this guy again. He's our guy. Like, that's unlikely. That's an unusual thing we just saw happen here. The thing we just saw happen in Jacksonville, but Chicago, very unusual in my opinion. And I wonder if it's changed the game. The NFL has tried to extend the process to make more people get involved, and we still have teams circumventing the process. The New England Patriots, it was a joke. It was a sham what they did with the Rooney Rule. The Chicago Bears, a little bit too, bringing in Eddie George, and then sight unseen, saying, Ben Johnson, here's $13 million a year or whatever it was. Now, listen, you can be convicted. You got your guy. That's fine. Nobody's going to complain in Chicago. But it's a little bit of a mockery of what the NFL's trying to make this thing, which is a fair process. And we saw something that's very unusual. That guy, he could have had even more leverage if he wanted to, at least to meet with the teams in the Raiders, the Jags, and Chicago. He still could have taken Chicago at the end of the week. That's what everybody thought he was doing, and then boom, they closed the door. Well, Liam Coen doesn't even take a second interview before doing this. Like, who does that? Like, again, you can pit it all on Baalke. I still think you could do it after meeting with the Jags. And so I never got to what I was going to say here. I actually think there's a possibility, and this is why the move was so quick by Shad yesterday, because I think he might have been waiting for that second interview and this might be too much credit, I understand, waiting for a second interview for that guy to come in and say, what do we need to do at the GM position?
Sure.
Like, what alignment do you need? Well, you don't get to that part in the virtual session. You just don't. But you need that second interview. So if Coen had come in here yesterday or wherever they were going to meet in person, and part of that conversation, hey, I think this is what alignment looks like, I think everything else, well, Shad had already cracked the door open on this 2 weeks ago. All Coen had to do is push it in and ask the right question. Maybe Ben Johnson, same thing. So that might not be the case. I'm just saying how quick he moved. He might have been waiting for, because why? Why would he be waiting for that? Well, I would suggest that he wants a coach-centric team. I want to see the alpha. The problem with Doug Peterson was I was waiting for Doug Peterson to be the guy in the building, the guy that you felt in the building. Well, it looked like a dance with him and Baalke the whole time. It wasn't, I felt, coach-centric. He wants coach-centric. You got to be an alpha there. So that means I want to see, this is a little bit of a test in the interview process. Are you going to be willing to move the guy that shouldn't be here? And give me good reason why. Not ego why, but give me good reason why. And what does that alignment look like? Well, that might be part of the interview test. Like, I'm waiting for somebody to do that. Now, again, I might be giving him too much credit in that regard.
I think so.
But I just think it moved fast, man. Like, was that just a crisis control move to fire Baalke? Or was that, hey, I'm already kind of thinking of it, because I'll be honest, we had said multiple times in the last couple of weeks, not convinced Baalke's still in this role at the end of it.
Yeah, but
not convinced he's still in this role at the end of it.
But Brent, when Shad said during the Monday press conference 2 weeks ago about the door still opening, that wasn't convincing either to me. I mean, it was good to hear that it was at least an option, right? That it was. And Austen has a completely other argument where he wishes it would be completely set in stone. Either he's the 100% our guy and Shad would have backed him 100%, or he wouldn't have even made it to the press conference because he would have already been fired. But so many people were excited to hear that it's an option. I don't know if it was that convincing. It was almost like, how many questions did it take for Shad? That was almost like that was the question on everybody's mind. Yet it took a ton of questions to get Shad to even say that. It wasn't that convincing to me.
Yeah. And again, I'm not trying to give Shad credit here. You're just trying to figure out through the process when he left the door open, are you waiting for that? And what I've gathered is you're not going to do that in a virtual interview. So you're not going to feel that in the 10 virtual interviews. So these next interviews really matter. Like, could Robert Saleh, could Patrick Graham come in today and be like, listen, I'm glad you got him out of here because I wasn't going to take this job.
Yeah.
I don't want this job if that's the structure. We need more structure. So, I mean, I guess it's near nor there anymore. Like, it does. I'm just wondering how we got here so quickly. Was it just total crisis control? Because, listen, the Detroit Lions crushed the Jaguars. The Jags did nothing for 2 weeks except for extend Walker Little the next time they played a football game. So, Shad is not emotional.
Sure.
But yesterday felt emotional. Or was it already in play?
I think it was the overconfidence, Brent. Look, this goes back to best roster I've ever had, right? And why he kept Baalke. And I think that overconfidence transitioned. It went from overconfidence in the roster, best roster, to overconfidence in this job. We have the best job. I think that's what Shad's thinking for the last 2 weeks. We have the best job on the market. We'll go get whoever we want to get. And then it's the polar opposite where Ben Johnson doesn't even get a second interview and he goes to another team right off rip. And then Coen is the final straw where he's completely shocked. He realizes that everything kind of has been a lie, that it's not the best job. Okay, well, why isn't it the best job? Because we know a couple of things. Shad still believes in Trevor 100%. Shad still believes in the franchise, right? The stadium, the roster. The only thing is Trent.
Yeah, Whiskey Mike, California. I know you mentioned like there's a report out there. I know there's like a new guy out there on Twitter that's been feeding some information, which is cool. Like it seems like some of the information is pretty interesting. And he said like, hey, Spy Tech, Coen wanted to bring Spy Tech in, blah blah blah, and which is And then when he turned the interview down. So who knows but I would just caution this about some of that reporting. That's not real reporting. That's like throwing stuff against the wall. Like, go back and read those tweets. And there's a lot of tweets. Like, there's just stuff that also hasn't worked out. That guy also said Coen was the guy. He was a lock. 2 days ago. Okay. So that guy there's no accountability for that person on social media if he's wrong. There's no accountability usually for anybody, but you can't just take what maybe he gets right and not acknowledge what he also got wrong.
Sure.
So Coen was slam dunk here, and now Patrick Graham and Saleh are bringing in to be the DCs. Like, that's what he reported a couple of days ago. Well, guess what? Cohen's back in Tampa. So however we got here, that dude wasn't right. And I'll give you this, too. Like, Saleh ain't taking the DC job from everything I understand. Like, you can want that. Like, he wants to be the head coach. And if he's not going to be the head coach, he's probably not going to be the DC here. He's got a familiarity place in San Francisco where he can go probably be really good in that organization that has been good and find his next head coaching job. Or maybe even Dallas, a place like that. So I would be surprised that you might want that. The Jags might want that. But I think be very surprised at this point if Saleh is the defensive coordinator of the Jags. He's here to try to get the head coaching job.
Yeah, you ask yourself, if you went into a job interview and you wanted the top job, and at the end of the day they said, hey, we really like you, but we're going to choose somebody over you, will you take the secondary role for a lot less money when you could have taken that same role somewhere else in a spot where that was their top position available at the time? Hey, yeah, I know we chose somebody over you, but you still want to take the second position? Not many people would do that.
Well, and also the bottom line is San Francisco has reportedly already made him the highest paid defensive coordinator in the league. Mm-hmm. So he's already got a sweet offer.
Sure.
So now Patrick Graham, this same scenario, you'd be like, hey, listen, man, we really like you. We just think it's a little early for you to be the head coach, but we love the idea of bringing you up in our organization. We'll make you pretty highly paid. Like, we'll give you a bump than what you would have had.
Then you get
now,
to
he
the
might
same-
make some sense. Like, that might make sense. I don't think the Saleh one makes sense. Keep in mind, Saleh probably still getting paid pretty handsomely from the Jets.
Right.
So, like, it definitely is.
But Brent, then you get into the same thing that Malarkey was talking about last week. You try to marry people. The why he was most successful in Tennessee is because he hired his coordinators. He hired his entire staff.
Yeah.
Are we really going to make this mistake again? Instead of trying to marry head coach to GM, we're going to try to marry head coach to here's your defensive coordinator who we don't even really have a prior relationship with, but we like him because we've interviewed him twice. So here, regardless of whether you have a DC on your mind, this is your guy now.
All right, let's do this. I'm going to take a timeout. There's a lot to get into here. Austin will join us here in just a little bit. He's missing the first hour to get his workout in down in South Florida for his upcoming UFC fight. Then he'll join us, get his reaction on it. We're more with, listen, I want to get people's feelings because I said this yesterday, even on our show, while Baalke still had a job. I said this yesterday when Baalke was fired and we went on with our breaking news show. It's now what's next. You can say too little, too late, all these different things. And you might be right in some respect of too late, but not, or just late. Not too late, though. It's not too late. You don't have to wait another year. You don't have to wait another 3 years. You're not wrapped up in this. It's never too late to make this move. Sure, lost out on Ben Johnson. I still think you can make the case that you would have lost out on Ben Johnson anyway. I'm not predicting you would have, but you could have. Chicago is not a bad job to have. There are reasons why he could have easily wanted that Chicago job. So you might have lost out on him anyway. Have you completely lost out on Liam Coen? Well, I think it's trending that way. You have to circle back and see. Why not? And can you make him reconsider? And is he worth that, by the way? Is he worth chasing to that degree? Ben Johnson might have been. Is Liam Coen in your mind? And would he reconsider? Does that get muddy on his end? Or is it the right thing to do? He's got a second chance at this job and now the structure. Why would it make sense for Liam Coen to come here now? And then where does that leave us? Patrick Graham, Robert Saleh, and probably a whole new search, right? With more, or at least an opened up, extended search of Joe Brady, maybe Todd Monken, maybe Mike McCarthy, more people. The Jags want to go offense here. I think it's crystal clear. The Jags no longer have a GM in place. Who will be the next GM? There was a question on the EVP, Tony Baselli. I will tell you today on the show, even though while I've been advocating for him to be involved in the front office, why I don't think Tony Baselli should be entitled named the executive vice president of this organization. I want him part of the front office, but not executive vice president. I'll explain that throughout the show today as well. All on the way, coming up. Trent Baalke out here in Jacksonville. Brent Austen Show on the Action Sports Jacks 24/7 network.
When it comes to trucks, I know exactly what I want. And at Bozard Ford, they make it easy to get exactly that. Let's go make this truck a little more my style. With Bozard Built, I can create my perfect truck right here. Lift kit? Check. Premium wheels? You bet. Advanced lighting package? Oh yeah. The Bozard team works their magic. From bumper to tailgate, I'm making this truck mine. It's everything that I wanted and more. From the field to the gym to weekend adventures. This truck's built for my journey. Bozard Built. Customized for your lifestyle, built to exceed your expectations. Check out the inventory and available options at bozardbuilt.com. Unleash your dream ride. Customized, covered, and Bozard approved.
When it's time to get a new car for anyone in your family, just remember, nobody but Nimnick, the #1 Buick GMC dealer in Jacksonville. Get the latest price breaks on 2023 and 2024 models or the newest 2025 vehicles in the showroom on Phillips Highway or shop online at nimnickbuickgmc.com 24 hours a day. GMC Sierras, Yukons, and the redesigned Acadias, or get the all-new redesigned line with Buicks. It's nobody but Nimnick, and part of the reason why is this is a first-class buying experience here at Nimnick Buick GMC. You're not just a customer, you're a friend. This is about getting a vehicle that best fits you and getting you on the road, and also helping you and your family down the road. Nimnick has a treating you right guarantee, courtesy respect, fairness. And most Buicks, GMCs, and Jacksonville's only Car Bravo dealer, nobody but Nimnicht. Who has put in the most years and stands behind a better experience? Nobody but Nimnicht. GMC. We are professional grade. If you need a quality play this football season at your home, call That One Painter First Coast. Locally owned and operated, experienced employees, no builder-grade materials. And there's more, and for that, we throw it to Noah Schlicksup. That One Painter First Coast can apparently help your kicking game, too.
Well, after my failure on skinny sticks last year on Creekside game day, I've spent a lot of time out here at Creekside practicing my kicks. There's only one issue. How is that even possible? The good news is I know exactly who can help. That One Painter can handle all your painting needs, from field goal posts to cabinets to stucco. They got you covered. Though they may not be able to help with my kicking, they can certainly help with the posts. Call That One Painter First Coast today for all your painting needs at 904-495-1373.
'24 provided plenty of memorable moments for the Jacksonville Armada on the pitch, including another conference championship game appearance for Tommy Krasanovich's under-23 men's team.
They sit in the dying moments.
Debuting this year for the first time, the girls in blue, as the Armada fielded a women's under-23 side in the WPSL and made its presence known with some highlight moments.
Potential goal of the season.
Then attention turned to the future, with MLS Next teams representing the Armada badge in 3 age divisions this fall, including an under-19 squad ranking among the best in the state. Those teams are a big focus on Fleet and Footy, covering the big soccer stories each week on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network.
I'll put one in the back of the net for you.
Join us for player profiles, fun interviews, and the very latest on the Fleet and all things footy. That's every Thursday at 2 p.m.
Welcome back to the Brent and Austen Show, streaming on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network.
Well, they got their wish. Fire Baalke, fire Doug, fire Baalke. They reset it eventually, a couple weeks later than anticipated. It is kind of wild to think of what Doug Peterson is like thinking.
Oh, man, I'm so curious.
Yeah.
What does he have to be thinking?
I'll tell you this, though. It's not as... I've talked to a lot of people that have left this job. You listen to even Mike Baalke, right? He's got some, when he is on, and there's some obviously, like, there's bitterness a little bit of hey, man, you only gave me a year.
Rightfully
Tom
so.
Coughlin, right? Like, whatever, how that worked out. Hey, this wasn't all my fault. You fired me. I think there's a sense of that when you're around them. I think you go I never have sensed any of that kind of stuff with Gus Bradley or in talking to him over the years. I think if you're like Dave Caldwell today, like Dave Caldwell's the only guy that hasn't had to go into hiding after being the GM of this franchise in the last 15 years. Like he seriously, like he still lives in town and you might run into him and he's with the Philadelphia. I mean, you have no idea where Gene Smith is. And I don't think you're going to have any idea where Trent Baalke is. Like it's pretty wild to think it that way. But what I'm telling you is when you talk to folks about the Jags and you try to catch up and you're like, hey, what's going, this is over the years now, not yesterday or today. And they still care about the Jags and want to see the Jags do well. Like, they care about you, like the fan. It's pretty cool, actually. I thought there'd be more overall bitterness because it's an ego-driven thing. And there's some of that in there, like, hey, Mike could have done this or that or did this or hey, see what we did. You start kind of piecing it together like, look what we did versus what like anybody would do. You keep a scoreboard, but the overall sense I get is, man, listen, Shad wants to win. They're trying to figure it out. You feel bad. You want it for the people in the building. You want it for the people in the town. You want it for the people in the lock, all those things. And I really come away from these conversations surprised at how much people are like rooting for the Jags to do well that have actually been fired by them.
Yeah.
And that's a real thing. I'm telling you, it's a real thing. And I've been stunned by it. So my point in that is Doug Peterson probably, while there's a little bit of that in the competitive, like, see, all that stuff, there's also probably, man, this doesn't have to be like this. Like, this should be better. Like, these guys deserve better. Those guys in that locker room deserve better. The people in this town deserve. I really think they think that way they like Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Right? And I think they like Shad and all that. So, yeah, I think there's almost a little feel bad sense of, man, I wish that wasn't happening. I wish people weren't talking about Jacksonville like the laughing stock of the league right here the last couple of days. I genuinely bet Doug Peterson has some of that. He might have some of the other side too. Don't dismiss that.
Right.
But I do think it comes back to that.
Especially for a Super Bowl winning coach. I think that might be the slight difference between a lot of those guys. Other than Baalke, a lot of the guys you named, Jacksonville was their first opportunity, right? Either a GM or a head coach. They probably, because you just like players always appreciate the team that drafted them. It's kind of the similar thing. Mike Baalke had one. He was with the Bills before, but like Coughlin or Caldwell or Gus Bradley, maybe that plays a little bit of a role. I feel like Doug would kind of be the guy that has it but doesn't, just because, hey, I want a Super Bowl, and then y'all wanted to get rid of me after 3 years. Yeah, is he still probably rooting for the guys in the locker room? Sure. Does he have the ties to the city that these other guys do? I don't think so.
Yeah, I would agree. Hey, here's the latest on the well, I don't know if this is the latest. I think there are reports on Liam Coen has not signed his new contract yet. Isn't there something to do? Somebody legally would be able to tell me. I got to check. But it almost doesn't matter if you sign the contract like today. It's the ink really doesn't dry for like 24, 48, 72 hours legally anyway. Mm-hmm. Like you don't, even if you signed it, I think you have a couple of day window to sign a legal document and still pull it back.
Right.
I believe that's the case from a court of law standpoint. And keep in mind, if he said that he wanted to come to be a head coach, and now the situation's better, Tampa's not going to hold him back from that. No. Like, they're not going to hold that. That's not what organizations do. So I guess my question right now is just Liam Coen is right now the best coach in Jags history. He's never coached a game, and he's undefeated at 1-0. I mean, the Jags finally got a W on the board, and it's Liam Cohen's name. Like, that move, that sequence of events goes under his name. It's Frank Gore all over again. Mm-hmm. I still don't think Marcus May gets enough credit, by the way, for the Trevor stuff. Marcus May made a huge play in that game, folks. You should give him more credit. But it's got a little bit of a feel like that for Liam Coen. So, the point being, man, if you want to make this right in a hurry, you go get Liam Coen, make him say no again, make him not say no, and bring him in here and win the next week. I'm not telling you that winning the next week is the most important thing. I'm the guy that always says, wait a minute now. It's about winning the next 4 or 5 years, not the next couple of days. But you thought highly of this guy to begin with. It seems like your quarterback probably thought highly of him. Why not go back? Is it clunky? Yeah. Has it been clunky in the past for others? Yeah. Dan Campbell didn't win the press conference very well. Nick Sirianni didn't win the press conference at all, and yet he's going maybe to a second Super Bowl in the last few years. Clunky? Okay. It's happened in other places. But it's about getting it right. If you think the right guy is Liam Coen, he's the only chance we have a head coach by the weekend. I still think they're sitting back a little bit on this, opening it up again, but that doesn't mean you can't at least see and open up dialogue with Liam Coen. And by the way, I think this is much believed that it's going to happen, that they are at least going to put something back out to him. Will he do it? Does he want to get involved with that? This is a guy that's been at one stop, like year by year, sometimes a 2-year stint.
Yeah.
And now would he want to be the guy that says no and then yes? Like, that's a weird thing to be in.
Sounds like if there was anybody who would want to be doing that, it would be the guy that's been at one place every single year and then gone somewhere else, and then went back. Like,
yeah, or he doesn't because of those reasons. He doesn't want to be labeled as that guy, right? And again,
that all goes out the window when you're a head coach.
I think it does. Again, I think it should be on the table. I think it is on the table. I don't know. It's all up to him. It's all up to how he feels about it. Like, there are many people that believe going back to Tampa, good move, $4.5 million. They showed you the love. That's a tough. Think about the emotion of that now. If somebody across the street, Hamby's trying to steal you, and like you go over there and you feel, it's not everything's right. And over here says, hey, I say, we're going to double your pay, man. And you've been working over here and you like the relationships you have over here and you had success over here. Then they're like, hey, we moved that guy out. Now you got this. Like, how are you feeling?
Yeah.
Like, take any of your business point. Like, that's a hard thing to do. I think that's a hard thing to do. So I don't think just because you go back and now Baalke's out, like this is automatic that you get Coen. In fact, I think it's still very difficult. But I also think you've got to at least make the play. Like, if you were that interested in him to the point where we thought he was probably getting the job this weekend, if he took that second interview, that's where everybody was tracking.
Mm-hmm.
That it's his to turn down. If you were that in on him, then you should go back after him. You go get the girl you want. Right? Like, doesn't matter how it looks, who you hurt, whatever. If you're in love, you're in love. So I think the Jags should try to do that. We'll try to do that. Now, I say that, and I think you could be turned down pretty quick and be like, nah, thanks, we appreciate it. Just, I don't feel comfortable doing that. And either way, we have also suggested yesterday on the show, once Coen did leave, now that he was out of the picture, I think he kind of comes back in the picture a little bit, that you take a step back. Now it's important to take a step back, recalibrate, and restart this search. Mm-hmm. And you can still do it with Patrick Graham in play. You can still do it with Saleh in play, but you slow it down a little bit. And so those are the two ways to go about this. But I think either way, you have to at least do your due diligence of, hey, I know this is clunky and this is kind of goofy, but what do you think? Spytek went there. We're going to reset this whole front office. What do you think, Liam? And here's the deal. I said this yesterday on the show, and I still believe this. And Liam Coen has every right to go back to Tampa. And Tampa has a lot of nice things to it. I still think Liam Coen made a bad choice. Mm-hmm. I think he had the ability to make this happen with Baalke anyway. And I think he had a chance to run this building the way he wants to run this building and have a lot of autonomy. Like, I think this was a very good setup. Let's just say this. If Buck struggled next year and Bowles goes and Coen is the guy and they promote him, which, by the way, will be a harder thing to do because your offense probably was clunkier and everything else, and emotions and feelings change. You don't just put the guy in that's on the staff, but they might if they do that. Well, he's not running the building. They're run by a power structure of the GM and like their president of operate. Like, they have a pretty good infrastructure. So much so, like, we can't get a main guy here in Jacksonville, the GM. They've got right-hand men getting jobs. Their Ethan Waugh just got the job. That's Spytek, mm-hmm. who, by the way, had been there 9 years building this thing. So, like, that's the kind of thing we need to create here in Jacksonville, where sooner or later you're getting rated for the people that you're helping build and promote and develop, even in the front office. We can't even get one that anybody likes to stay here in Jacksonville. Yeah. One. So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that needs to go on here. But the point being, the autonomy that you get as the head coach here, this coach-centric system, which a lot of coaches would love to have.
With Baalke being a little lenient on that.
Well, not only that now, but he's gone.
Well, yeah, I'm saying you probably would have had more autonomy and control over the organization. Liam Coen, for example, would have had more with Baalke as the GM than maybe even if he brings in his own guy now. Because Baalke, as we have talked about it, almost like in order to stay in his position and knowing that Shad wanted to be as coach-centric as possible, probably would have had to let go of even more control. And we talked about, well, Baalke's probably one of the only guys that would sign up for that, which is why that was our whole argument, almost devil's advocate of why Baalke wouldn't be the reason why a lot of people would come here and at least interview, because we thought, look, Baalke's probably going to let his foot off the gas and let the coach do what the coach wants to do other than really the draft. But now that he's gone, you're going to have a GM. If it's a first-time GM, guess what a first-time GM is going to want to do? Be in control. Especially if it's a guy that's outside of where Liam Coen works now. If it's Spytech, that would have been another thing. They have a pre-existing relationship. They know how to work together, whatever the case may be. But if it's just somebody else who they've never worked together with before, there could be some battles there.
Yeah. There's a lot to digest, but the bottom line is you can come into let's just say you reconsider. You make amends, you get them on the Kismet, have some good champagne. And you're like, listen, man, this is what I kind of wanted you. Say what I said earlier. I wanted you to come in here in this second interview and tell us that. I want you to be the alpha. And now you can be. And I know that was a little bit awkward. We probably didn't handle that right. We probably should have moved them out of the way anyway. That's on us. But I want you to be the guy. Mm-hmm. And now we're going to reconstruct this thing. We're going to have alignment. And we're going to support you and do everything you need to do. And we think our quarterback can really thrive with you. And we think you're going to be great. I mean, I think you still got a good sell. And I'm not a desperate sell. The Jags have other good options. Listen, Joe Brady might be the guy to land on. Todd Monken eventually might be the guy to land on. I mean, who knows? Kellen Moore. He's interviewed he has more experience than any of these folks, by the way, being OC and in interviews. I'm not like, get overly excited about it. But let's be honest, the reason why we get excited about guys like Coen and Brady is because we don't really have a great feel for it. We don't know. There's unknown. We've seen Kellen Moore kind of good and bad, and he get interviews and he doesn't get the job, so that means, okay, maybe he's not as good. Like, we have no idea. But he does have the most experience, so if experience concerns you, he's 43. I think he's 43. Or is he 36? No, that? Moore's 36. My bad. Yeah, Moore's 36, but he's actually
the youngest.
But he's really been on the path of McVay more than anybody. Mm-hmm. Like as a 30-year-old, 31-year-old, it was Dallas rumors. Then he went to the Chargers, Eagles. Before that, it was the Miami Dolphins. I think he interviewed for their job when Mike McDaniel got hired. So, like, he's been around it. Maybe he's the guy. And again, so I'm telling you, you don't need to be desperate. I think these guys all fit a certain way, and you just got to figure out who's going to be the best one.
Don't give me Cliff.
Well, that's fine. You can even throw him in there, though. But I'm just saying, they all fit in this category. You've got to find the best one. And yeah, you can say Saleh, but Saleh's not in the category. Quite frankly, Todd Monken isn't in that category, even though he's an offensive guy. And I think he might be the best one. But you still have, you can sell this back to Coen, is my point. And Coen would have plenty of reasons to take it. Hmm. Or he just says he doesn't want it. He doesn't feel right about it. And that would be fine, too. Now, you don't want to publicly be turned down twice by Coen.
That would be bad.
That would be bad.
Because then what's his excuse?
But keep in mind here, I still believe, and listen, as Delphonic said, I was ready to ask a bunch of Rhode Island questions to him, which I still think it's pretty wild that if you listen to him in Kentucky and everything, he doesn't have a strong Rhode Island accent, which I'm a little surprised by with all the time he spent up in New England.
Anyways.
At least when he's coaching. I'm a little shocked at that.
Okay.
I wonder if more of that comes out in a news conference and stuff like that. But I didn't pick that up when we were playing that Kentucky video.
Yeah.
I was a little surprised by that. But listen, the Jags made a mistake here. But I actually think Coen made a mistake too. And I genuinely believe he made a mistake. Not necessarily not taking the job, but not getting a second interview. I don't see why he couldn't have taken a second interview. That doesn't, maybe there's some logic behind it that I'm missing. It doesn't make sense to me. He could have still done the same stuff and at least had an experience, like Malarkey talked about with us, right? Take the experience of doing it and seeing what it's all about, get a feel for it. Not just these back channel things. I don't think that makes a lot of sense. And now you could do that again, potentially. So you do have to be a little careful if you're Jags because you're going to take the heat this cycle as a clunky process. You look bad. So you want to be a little careful to look bad even more because, quite frankly, you now have turned the table to build momentum. You fired Baalke. You got the fans at least now back at least in your corner a bit. Now you've got to make a sequence of moves that are good and that make sense and that people can rally around. Getting turned down by Liam Coen again is not the move. So you need to find out. You really got to vet it in a quiet way, I would think. So I'm going to stand by this, though. And again, plenty of reason to go back. I respect Coen for going back to Tampa, for standing on principle, if it will, because of Baalke, for maybe being the next guy there. Maybe he thinks he's better off sticking around another year. Betting on himself, as Austen said yesterday. Respect it. But I'm going to also stand by, I think he's wrong. I think he has a chance to be a star here as a head coach right now in a coach-centric deal where I don't think you're going to get that opportunity very much with the pieces in place here in Jacksonville and all the reasons we think this is a good job too. And especially more so now that Baalke's out. And so on top of that, I think he made a mistake not getting a second interview. And I really still think he made a mistake if this job was his, not taking it.
Yeah.
And we'll see how that plays out. You can write it down. It's January 23rd, 2025. Let's look up next year during the cycle and see if I'm right or wrong. But I think he made a mistake. That doesn't mean his window's closed, by the way. He could not do well next year, not get a bunch of interviews, and 4 years from now still get him.
Sure.
Right? So the story's not told on Coen just because of this one instance. I just feel like he made a mistake here. Not taking the second interview for sure. And quite frankly, not taking the job if he could have had it. So we'll see what happens with the Coen situation. Where does it go beyond that? I do think, let's assume Cohen's out of the mix because he's in Tampa. And now where do you go? And how long does this go? And Austen will join us and get some thoughts on him about Baalke and everything else. The unjust loyalty part is done. Austen said that yesterday. It was a very good line because we just witnessed that over the last year that got a lot of people in Jacksonville in trouble. Shad to Baalke, Peterson to Press. And while loyalty is a tremendous attribute in many respects, oh, wow, did it hurt the Jacksonville Jaguars here in 2024 and in the early stages of 25. Austen Lane joins us from South Florida in just a bit. Hey, icy conditions, perfect for some hockey around here. It continues to be freezing cold here in Northeast Florida. Well, this Saturday, 7 o'clock, the Icemen and Solar Bears play. It's Star Wars night. If you can't make it out, which, hey, love to get you down to the arena at 7 o'clock. But if you can't, you can watch with Action Sports Jax on MyTV Jax. And there's all the ways you find MyTV Jax, whether it's just off your 30.2 or on Xfinity, AT&T, Uverse, DirecTV Channel 53, Dish TV Channel 32. Check out the Icemen in action on TV. We'll have a few more broadcasts as well, but it's this Saturday night at 7 p.m. If you don't see a pit, it ain't legit. When you hear that, you think Bono's Pit Barbecue, a staple in Northeast Florida now for 75 years. A place that feels like home with friendly service, a meeting place for friends, family, or business occasions. On the menu, the corn nuggets are a favorite in our house, but there's something for everyone. Sandwiches, platters, salads, sides, desserts, and family feasts. You see Bono's all over the place in Northeast Florida. You know, there are almost 20 locations in the Jacksonville area now, so stop on by, sit down, and dine in with Bono's. You can also take it to go. There are drive-thrus in many of the locations, and they have delivery options too. Just download the Bono's app to make things easy. I signed up for the loyalty program, and you can too, to get special offers. If Jacksonville is home, few things feel more Jacksonville than Bono's Pit Barbecue. Celebrate 75 years and many more to come. Bono's Pit Barbecue. If you don't see a pit, it ain't legit.
For the game day hustle and every day in between. Juggling my show, Jag Social, to going under the Friday night lights and a social life, it's a daily tournament. But this ride, MVP status. The all-new 2024 Lincoln Nautilus isn't just my car, it's my personal locker room, office on the go, and VIP lounge on wheels. Let's talk tech. My profile remembers everything from customizing my dash display to setting the ambient lighting and my signature scent. And wireless charging, essential for live tweeting scores. Whether I'm packing for a beach day with friends or heading to the gym, there's space for every passion. After dominating all day, this becomes my recovery zone. The massage feature is like having a personal PT on call. Life's a non-stop game, but with this ride, I'm always on my A game. The 2024 Lincoln Nautilus. Drive.
You trust CGC to make your water great, and now you can trust CGC with your plumbing needs as well. Fast, convenient scheduling, licensed and insured. A quick call away at 904-552-1242. You never know when you're going to have an issue with a shower, toilet, or maybe it's a sink that sometimes is easy to fix. All right, let's be honest. I'm not fixing anything. I'm totally staging this because when I have a plumbing problem, I call CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing. Trained professionals, transparent pricing, customer satisfaction. Small problem or even a bigger issue. Right now, save 10% off a new Rinnai tankless water heater. The experts with 25 years of experience at CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing can do it all. Call 904-552-1242 or visit cgcwater.com. For a limited time, CGC is waiving the trip charge on all related plumbing calls. CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing, an authorized independent Connecticut dealer. Florida license number CFC 1432579.
Here on Spring Sports Media Day on Action Sports Jax.
It's an opportunity, an education beyond the classroom and the sports arena. Life skills, testing skills, social skills. It's called High School 912, a program focused on maximizing the growth of students in academics, sports, and life. And here's your chance to get involved. If you're a local business, or if you just want to make a donation to help support programs like ACT and SAT boot camps, career days, Leadership Academy, Financial Literacy Academy, and so much more.
All right, another Nice High School Panther, Jack Cole.
High School 912 supports and hosts high school sporting events and several media days throughout the year. For more information on how you can get involved, visit jaxhighschool912.com.
It's the place we party in football season with Jaguars All Access. Welcome to Spring Sports Brewery, everybody. Say hello to our guest tonight. That is Trevor Lawrence. You can bring your party or event to Spring Sports Brewery in Springfield any day and any time. Rehearsal dinners, corporate events, birthdays. Here at Springs, you can enjoy the inside area and the outside area. Good for any weather, good for any occasion. Watch the games, play the games, shoot some hoops. Beer? Yeah, they have that. Plenty of choices. And sure, this is a brewery, but Strings is also a restaurant, and the food is fantastic. A full menu made from scratch meals. And if you need String Sports Brewery to help with a party at your place, they cater too. Family, beer, food, sports. Spring Sports Brewery in Springfield.
Welcome back to the Brent and Austen Show, streaming on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network.
Hey, look at this live look at the Jacksonville Icemen at the Igloo, getting some practice in as they get set for Star Wars night on Saturday. You can see it on MyTV Jax. Stuart Weber out there gathering some content. He'll have interviews during the intermissions Saturday night on MyTV Jax with some of the players as well, in addition to what's happened in the sports world. Again, you can see that 7 o'clock Saturday night, part of the Action Sports Jax and Jacksonville Iceman relationship, showing some games on MyTV Jax 30.2, and we'll show you again throughout the show if you missed it, where you can get the broadcast. We did one already this year. We're doing 4 more, one Saturday, another one coming up next Friday. We got to go! I don't know who scored. They're wearing their practice jerseys. And even if they weren't, I probably still wouldn't know who scored. I don't think I know the Iceman. I didn't do my homework to be able to do play-by-play. Play-by-play hockey, I think, would be hard. Now, the folks that do it say it's really not as hard as you think, but I think it would be hard. So Stuart giving us a look there at practice, and Icemen have been playing pretty well over the last month or so, and really in change. They started off a little bit slow, but they're creeping up in a very competitive division, so hopefully can make some noise in the playoffs. We'll continue to follow the Icemen and have more for you tonight and throughout the weekend. Again, Saturday, Star Wars night at the arena, You can also watch it on My TV Jax. Brent Martineau along with Jason Hamby, Austen Lane. Solar Bears by $1 billion. Get the hell out of here, Hamby's burner.
No relation. I have to start saying that.
Solar Bears fan? Solar Bears fan? On our chat?
It's from Orlando, maybe?
I thought he lived down in like the Palaca area or something. I thought Hamby's burner was.
Oh.
I guess that's closer to Orlando.
Probably.
But
give us an explanation.
Yeah, we need an explanation on that. Austen Lane getting ready to join us here in just a little bit. I'll wait till Austen comes in to see just a little bit more conversation about where this goes, right? And I think we know this feels like if they don't get Liam Coen, that they are going to they're going to go kind of reset this whole deal. So yeah, you get Graham in, you get Saleh in, but also, okay, well, wait a minute now. We're going to also we're going to vet this a little bit different because Ethan Waugh now is almost leading the charge. A different guy is kind of leading the charge. Why wouldn't you reset? Why wouldn't you say, okay, if we're going to, he's probably been in the meetings anyway.
Right.
In the first 10, who do you like? Do you feel different? I mean, if you're going to make this move, you have to now lean on the people that you trust in that position. That's also the bed you made if you're Shad Khan here. And do you bring other people in the mix, catch them up to speed, and say, okay, we want a couple other voices in here? Is this just Shad and Ethan Waugh? Tony Baselli has said that he hasn't been in those meetings. But does he get involved in those meetings? Do people like that? Can you bring more infrastructure even into the hiring process? So I think anything now is on the table. Like we talked about with potentially going back at Liam Coen, if everybody was on board and you were unanimous about that, well, that became the number one thing. Well, why not go after that? Okay. I even just saw odds where Liam Cohen's in the mix in the Raiders. I don't know if he's going to get an interview or not, but they've got odds where he's like plus 400 on the Raiders.
Where are they getting that at?
So are they revisiting? Because they were recalibrating too now that they've got a GM. Well, guess what? They have Spy Tech in place now.
Yeah.
So now could they go get a Liam Coen? Is he more apt to go to the Raiders job? So things could get even muddier for Liam Coen. So again, you've got to sit back. You got to take that breath and figure out where you go because you are now in a position where you made the right move finally. It was late, but you made the right move. You have to now make a series of really good moves. And it's paramount. It's paramount that you do that. So we'll see what the Jags do. There's another part of this is as you're building the infrastructure, and we could continue to bring up Tony Baselli's name. Why wouldn't you move on that sooner than later? If he's going to be if they are going to do something, and let's just say with Baselli in some capacity, and I want you to really key on some capacity, because I think some capacity is important here, and I'll tell you why in just a bit. But if you're going to do that at some point, why not do that now? Because it doesn't matter who the coach is. The coach, that's not really the coach guy. That's more of a con guy. That's Shad's guy. He's in there to do the things that we've kind of begged for, the messaging, the mission statement, the vision, the help organize, all that. Business side, the football side, to fan side, to every side. Like, he's in there. Chris Spielman role, folks. I wrote about it 3 months ago now. It's the Chris Spielman role. How do you get that? Well, you do that as a special assistant, perhaps, to the owner. You can do that now. There's some stuff floating around I've seen, and I've never heard this, by the way. Have I ever heard of it? I guess I've heard of it in theory, but I've never heard any credence to it, of like Baselli as the GM. And by the way, Glenn, see, you're wrong about Baselli has no business acumen. He actually runs like a healthcare thing. Like he's very high up in healthcare and whatever his business is. Yes, he does have business acumen. He actually does. Way more than you think and know. So, yeah, he does. But again, I don't think he needs to run the business side. I don't think he also needs to run the football side. This is going to be run by your coach. Where are you on Baselli? Or just the structure of where they can add? Is EVP important? Is more structure important? Not everybody has to agree with this, by the way, in terms of just structure. Heck, you can go get Rick, well, you're saying Spielman from Detroit. You can go get, is it Rick Spielman? Is the Minnesota guy that they brought in before? Maybe it was Rick Spielman. Yeah. Who's now with like the 33rd team? Is that his name too? Spielman? I think so.
Anyway.
But anyway, do you get a
Rick
guy?
Spielman. He's been with the Lions, Bears, Dolphins, and Vikings.
By the way, the Jags thought about bringing him in. I think they might have interviewed him for the EVP role a few years ago. So, again, name your guy. We just keep using Baselli because I'm going to explain why, once again, why this role has a lot more to do than with a title that everybody associates it with. But the bottom line is you feel like you need some more infrastructure, too.
Yeah, I think we should. I think Shad needs more voices in his head from guys that have played the game. And if one of the guy, the most history Jaguar in franchise history, and your only Hall of Famer, who's lives in the city and has his ear to the fan base more than perhaps any other former player, wants to be involved, I think that should be welcomed. I think it's as simple as that. I don't care about I don't even care about business acumen. I care about the relationship part of it. And the fact of the matter is that we have an owner who, yes, has probably learned a lot about football since he took over the team, bought the team. But if he's making decisions, we need more guys helping him, because the one guy that was helping him, we saw what just happened. In order for that not to happen again at the most elementary level, you need more voices in that guy's ears.
Okay, so here's the deal. We're getting a lot of chat about from Louis Riddick to the Baselli conversation, and yeah, Spielman.
Riddick comes up every year, it seems like.
Who does?
Louis Riddick.
I know, Riddick. And listen, I don't know what I always say this about the GM stuff. You really don't have a running list. Coach-wise, you get a feel for it, right? You see him on the sideline. You have no idea about the GM. I mean, the guy that's being like fancied around in New York and wasn't Raiders and all that guy, that Washington guy. I mean, he looks like he's on Wall Street to me. You know, like I have no idea that guy would be a football guy.
Sure.
With all due respect, you just don't know. You usually see a football guy, you get a feel for a football guy, right? You get a feel for Dan Campbell. You get a feel for Liam Coen. You get a feel for Todd Monken. You don't really get the feel for the GM, with all due respect to the GM. But let me tell you why. There are a couple of things that are important here on the, in my opinion, on the Baselli stuff. And I've been a huge advocate for him being involved in the structure of the front office. Structure of the front office. And when we think of that, we think of executive vice president, EVP. Why do we think of it that way? Well, because there's been some structure around the league like that. But there's also been structure here in Jacksonville like that with Tom Coughlin. And quite frankly, it worked. They went to the AFC Championship game with Tom Coughlin. They couldn't sustain it. We don't think he was the right time and place for it to be sustainable, but it obviously showed the ability to make it work. We don't think Shad got that wrong necessarily, but maybe to sustain, it wasn't the right way. But that is also the main reason why I don't think you give Baselli the EVP title. Because when we think of executive vice president, we think of Tom Coughlin, who ran the organization. Mm-hmm. That's not what Tony would be doing. He's not running the football side. Keep in mind, everything we think we know about this next hire of the head coach is it's going to be his team. Remember what happened with Coughlin. He basically was like, I can work with Mike Smith, I can work with Doug Marrone. You narrowed it down. I mean, Tom Coughlin was really felt like the coach at times, and Marrone felt like the assistant in that process. And the GM was Caldwell, and he was overseeing it all. There were plenty of pluses to that, but I'm telling you, that's not the role that I envision for Tony Baselli. That's not the way this is going to be built. It's going to be head coach centric. So if it's head coach centric, I don't want even the thought that the EVP is in the way of that. And our thought process here in Jacksonville is EVP, Tom Coughlin, they run everything. No. So you really don't want an executive vice president. That's not the job. You've got to title it something different. And I'm going to give you another reason why I think you have to title it something different if you're Shad Khan. as a special assistant to the owner or whatever. Come up with a great title that looks good, but not EVP. Because if you do take the Chris Spielman, my experiment article point of this whole thing, his job fluctuated. It wasn't one thing. It hasn't been one thing. It was one thing, and then once they got the people in place, it kind of slid to another thing. You have to give it the flexibility to be able to do that. And the real reason you give it the flexibility to do that is because, well, he can help you in a bunch of different ways. But the main reason is, if you do that, you can hide him from firing him. You do not want to be in a position, if you're Shad Khan, to someday, a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, fire Tony Baselli.
Yeah.
It was already uncomfortable to do that with Tom Coughlin. You don't want to take the guy in the Hall of Fame and the guy in the Pride and the guy that represents Jacksonville and your Jaguars franchise in so many ways and fire him. Now, they were able to manage it a little bit in Denver with John Elway, where they kind of slid him into another spot. Yeah, you could do that. But you can do that easier if he's not the EVP. And again, just whatever the EVP indicates is Tom Coughlin, run the thing.
Director
That's
of
not
player
the way it's
personnel.
going to be. Yeah, and I would just call it at the initial start, I think, special assistant to the owner. Honestly, and guess what? Wouldn't you feel better about that, Jacksonville? I know people are all over Tony right now. Tony made a mistake this week. He should not have gone on the radio. He is, in my opinion, he's very much in play for a role. I don't think he should have gone on a show. He probably knows too much. He's probably too close to it, and he wants to defend the organization. And I think he got put in a rough spot this week, but he kind of put himself in that spot. I don't think it was a good move, and it backfired on him. It was just one of the many moves this week that have backfired on the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I know he meant well by it, but it didn't work. But the bottom line is, if I tell you right now that Tony Baselli is a special assistant to Shad Khan, to the owner, don't you feel better about that? Because don't you feel like Shad needs some insulation, some help, some truth? And now he's being assisted in that role. And by the way, I don't know how much he would actually assist every day, Shad Khan. This isn't a secretarial position.
Right.
But you could also, under that umbrella, put him into, he's going to also be part of our vision. He's going to be part of our mission statement. He's going to be part of our messaging. He's going to be in there with football people, helping guide them when they need a voice.
Right.
And they need ears. This is a wide-reaching position, not a pigeonhole position of EVP. So there it is. Like, I just set the job that makes everybody happy and better for it. Makes the organization better. I'm not even interested in making people happy. I'm interested in making the organization better. And this makes them better. Tony has a great feel for this place. Tony has talked to you, the fan, for a long time. That's why you're pissed at him. You wanted him to say the things that you as a fan wanted to hear. But he also knows how to defend the organization at times because he believes in it.
Right.
He wants it to be successful. There are few people in town that want this team and franchise to win more than Tony Baselli. He used to go on caravans. He didn't have to do that stuff. Like, it's important to him that this place gets it right and wins. And so him being in there, I think, has some value, has a lot of value. This isn't like, I know some of the other folks in town, buddies in the broadcast booth with Tony. That's not it. Like, I don't sit here and talk to Tony Baselli every day. I'll text him from time to time, but we don't go out to dinner and talk. I think this is the best move for the organization because I saw what they did in Detroit. You need those kind of guys to help defend it, protect it, build a vision for it, find the right people to make it all happen and get the damn ego out of the way. What did we say for months? When the stuff hits the fan, almost said the other, in buildings, this level of toxicity that exists. Trent Baalke is not the only one, people. You start pointing fingers. It's his fault. It's their fault. Look, Shad Khan did it. Shad Khan basically picked a side. Mm-hmm. He said it was Peterson's fault.
Yep.
We all knew it was both their fault. Shad picked a guy. Tony would have been the guy to be like, dude, this is both of their faults. And I got one thing else for Tony. If he gets in this role, he's got to be willing to tell the owner what he needs to hear, not what he wants to hear. And while that's easy to say, I'll continue to do this, go ahead and go up to your boss after you're complained in the lunchroom or the whatever room, the break room, about what's going on in your company, then go up to your boss and say the same thing. It's uncomfortable. You probably won't. You'll say it in a different way, a more politically correct way, a way that kind of straddles the line instead of forcefully says, this is what's wrong. Very few people are comfortable enough around Shad Khan to actually do that. So if Tony gets in this position, the position where I think Mark Lamping is in the business side, to be able to say, Shad, this is what's going on, right? You've got to be willing to do that. Mm-hmm. And I think that is way harder than people think. I know there are a lot of people saying, oh, yeah, just needs another yes man. That ain't it, people. That's not it. Like, he's not going to be in this position to be a yes man. He's going to be in a position to be a truth man. And he's got to be willing to do that even at times when it might be a little bit uncomfortable. And guess what? There's another side of this. Shad Khan has to be willing to listen.
Right.
But I think that's going to be one of these things that really popped this week. To say what you said earlier in the show, what we said yesterday at times, the one thing that really popped, in my opinion, that we might look up in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road and say, hey, this changed it, is I think Shad is going to open his ears up to people like Baselli that may have been trying to say this to him for months and years anyway. Yeah. But again, didn't say it in a forceful way, tried to say it in a respectful way because it wasn't their territory. And Shad is like, yeah, I don't see that. Now Shad will be a little bit more willing to listen to those people, I think, that have been saying this in his ear for a few years. I think that's what's going to come out of that. I hope that's what comes out of it. You don't have to listen to everybody. And I think Shad does consume a lot. I think he takes a lot in, is my guess. But I also think he's like, what's noise and what's real, and I'm not going to be emotional. Like, I get that. That's part of that. But he's got to know who to listen to now that's got a pulse. And he missed on the Baalke stuff for a long time. So there's a lot of different stuff to this. And there's so much to it. There's so much to it. And you're going to hear me talk about this for the next couple of days and weeks. There's so much to it in this Jags building an organization that has to be changed. That has to be, to get it right, to build the right culture, vision, sustainable winning, that it's not simply go get Liam Coen and take out Trent Baalke. Not go get Joe Brady and take out Trent Baalke. It's not enough. There's more. And the Jags have to figure that out. They've got to take their time to figure that out. And they need input from a lot of different worlds. Listen, they know way more than I do. I'm just giving you my 2 cents from the outside looking in. But it's also been a building I've been in quite a bit over the last 17 years. And the way I attack it is more, man, let's get this thing right. Because once it gets it right, it's like, holy cow. But I don't get paid by them to give my thoughts. They don't have to listen. Mm-hmm. But I'm coming from a standpoint of, if I had their ear, this is what I'd be saying. And this is what I'd be doing. Because I've watched this for 17 years and 2 winning seasons. There are a lot of good people. They've done a lot of good things. They haven't done enough good things. They can't sustain it. They're going to win this fall. I'm telling you. The guy that comes in here is going to win this fall. I'm not telling you they're going to the Super Bowl, but they are going to have a good year. I'm convinced of it. Mm-hmm. That ain't the story. The story is, what do they do in 26, 27, 28, and beyond? Can you win the rest of the decade? Can you win when you open that stadium? They can find somebody to win for a year. That's been it. but they can't figure out how to win for 2. I'll take that right now. They got a year and a half out of Doug. No, seriously, they did.
They did.
Like, that's just real.
Yeah.
They did. They got a year and a month out of Marone and Coughlin. They got a year and shoot, September, October, November, 3 months out of Doug. They need 2 years. Len says, appreciate the candor, Brent. I respectfully disagree with the possible Baselli role. Listen, I don't give a damn if you put Baselli in the role or not. Find somebody for the role that checks all those boxes. I think you're going to have a hard time coming up with anybody else that can check all those boxes and Baselli. The crazy thing is you've got the perfect guy. You really have the perfect guy. This is not a broadcasting role, okay? It's not Tony the broadcaster. It's a role that a lot of different things you wouldn't see, in my opinion. But as I did say, and if you guys haven't seen it, it's the guy that says, hey, Baalke and Peterson, get out there and apologize to the fans because you lost 5 out of 6 and this place is on fire.
Yeah.
It's the role that says, hey, Shad, listen, the bottom line is I'm talking to a lot of people around the league, and like this Baalke thing is a real thing. Amy's Burner says season tickets were renewed. I have faith.
Baby.
I'm an optimistic, dumb supporter just like you, Brother Brent.
Come on.
Yeah, man, you want to be optimistic about it, right? And again, there is now a position to be optimistic about it in Jacksonville. That position happened yesterday when they fired Baalke. There's a chance here for the Jags to rescue this thing despite all the negativity and the missteps. And there are many. But there's a chance to rescue it here in Jacksonville now if you do some of the right things. And listen, I can give my thoughts on it. The bottom line is we can't make the decisions behind closed doors for them. You know, they have got to figure out who the best coach is. We have our opinion who we think it is, but we're not in the room. We have no idea what they're talking about, philosophies, head coach. Listen, I listened to Ben Johnson, and I became more of a fan of Ben Johnson. We knew Ben Johnson because, it's the Detroit thing, and they're winning, and, that guy has cool plays. Yeah, that got us. Okay, great. And also, he's the cool name in town. Like, everybody's talking about him. That's why we all wanted Ben Johnson. You know why I wanted Ben Johnson more when I saw his Chicago presser? Is because that dude was organized. That dude had a message. That dude delivered in no gray area. Mm-hmm. He was smart about the way he addressed the fans, the players in the locker room.
Made sure to mention Matt LaFleur's name.
Matt LaFleur's name in rivalry. Would he have walked in here in his opening press conference and said, look out, Houston Texans?
Watch out, D'Amico.
Would he have said that?
Man, that would have been sick.
Because of what happened to Trevor? Or did he just say that because he's got a feel for the NFC North? I don't know, but he checked a lot of boxes. And listen, I'm not a big win the press conference guy that makes you great. I have no idea if Ben Johnson's going to be great. In fact, I think there's a really good chance he's not. Because if you're going to bet against people, bet against 2 things, a head coach and a quarterback in the National Football League, and you usually win.
Yep.
But I like the way if I was in the room with him in that virtual interview and he's doing this, and this, like, okay, I like that. Mm-hmm. Because I'm a huge believer from a leadership standpoint that you don't win. You can't win big. You can't sustain if you're not organized. And that guy to me, and just in watching a press conference from afar, showed me his organization level. And I would think all these guys interviewing have that level of detail and organization, and you would think that way, but I doubt it. I doubt it. It's one thing to be a presentation. It's one thing to be likable in an interview. I think, do you all have that level of detail? Do you check these boxes? And I thought Ben Johnson did that the other day. Now, again, we'll see if he's able to lead men and build a staff and get past all that noise in the NFC North, which is pretty good.
Brent, real quick, rank the NFC North coaches. 1 through 4. Who's the best coach in the NFC North?
I think I have to go with Campbell, but he's about to get a test. who are about to figure it out. See, I mean, LaFleur to me has been excellent. I don't think he gets enough credit. And I know people are a little down on him toward the end of the year, but that guy has had different renditions, right? That's what Dan Campbell's about to experience.
Right.
Like when you lose a lot of staff and other people, can you do that? And I think what Dan Campbell's done, though, is very impressive. And the reason why I think I like him the most is it's so relatable to Jacksonville. It's a place that hadn't won. You had to turn everything upside down. The one thing about Green Bay is you walk in there, it's a lot like Mike Tomlin.
Yeah.
Like Mike Tomlin's question is, did you reset that culture or did you continue that culture? Did you build that culture or did you continue that culture?
Right.
Well, he continued it. I'm not telling you that's easy either, but it's easier than building it. Green Bay, LaFleur, he kind of continued it, but he got through some mud and everything else. But I think Campbell had to do so much more. And he also is playing with a quarterback that's a lot less. Like he's built him. And so I would say Dan Campbell, I would say LaFleur. And even though O'Connell's been outstanding, I would put him as third.
You got to give O'Connell flowers for what he did with Sam Darnold.
He did, but not only that, he won 13 games 2 years ago, I think, and 14 this time around.
Right.
So I think he's very good. I just don't feel him as much.
Like you could make an argument that the worst in-game head coach in the NFC North is Dan Campbell. In-game.
That the worst?
Yeah.
Yeah, you could make that. You could make that, but you could also say, listen, Doug Peterson won a Super Bowl that way. The Washington Commanders are playing in an NFC Championship because of that. The Philadelphia Eagles have continued to be a very aggressive team, and aggression has actually helped some of these teams that are pretty good. So I think yes, has he made some dumb ones? Absolutely. But I think he's also made a lot of good ones and that feed into what he is. They know who they are.
But if Ben Johnson was the coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars right now, you'd say he's the best coach in the AFC South. You'd say him or D'Amico. He's definitely second.
He'd definitely be second. He's fourth there.
Before ever coaching a game, you put him over Brian Callahan and you put him over Shane Steichen.
That's very true. Yeah, very true. Here's the thing. I think you could rise over D'Amico here, anybody who's in the AFC South. I don't know if you're getting past for at least a few. You have to do some amazing things to climb the ladder of the NFC North. And if you want to take that a step further, what's your quarterback coach? I always think quarterback coach. I thought the Jags had a chance when Doug Peterson got here with Trevor because I was like, okay, I'll take the quarterback and the coach most times. And I said that for a good bit over the first 2 years. This year I started not to say that because we lost a little faith in Doug because he wasn't the one calling the plays. That could even go back to last year. So it's like, now, wait a minute. I had faith in this thing because Doug's the guy. He knows how to win games. He also calls plays, and I got Trevor too. Well, wait a minute. Now you took one of those elements out because you're not calling plays. I don't feel as good about you. You control less of the game. One of the reasons he should have kept calling plays. But if you look at that relationship between quarterback and coach in the NFC, you got Campbell and Goff. I don't see that relationship as much as we saw it with like Ben Johnson and Goff.
Right.
Because he was the guy calling plays. But they're tied still together, Campbell and Goff.
Sure.
You feel pretty good about LaFleur and Love.
100%.
Right? Because he's the guy calling the plays. It's his offense. That's his guy.
Same with O'Connell and Darnold.
Or O'Connell and McCarthy. We'll have to see McCarthy play. But in that respect, when you do it that way, you feel good about Caleb Williams too and what Ben Johnson can get out of him. So I would say in that respect, he starts sliding up the board for me. It's like a lot closer of a conversation than if you just take the coach. So that's pretty interesting. And that's why I think the guy coming in here has a chance, to your point, in the South. Well, you're going to win that conversation quite a bit, or at least be in the conversation with Houston. So it's you or Houston. That's a nice thing to be. Like, you're already starting off. Hey, that's why it's still, I get that you can't be afraid to play anybody. But I also think you can be very logical about the situation in the AFC South, which is also part of the reason Liam Coen walked back to Tampa. Because he's like, well, we could win this division for the next couple of years. Like, we're going to keep winning it, right? Let's do this. Take a time out here on the show. Brent Austen Show on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network. I think we're getting Austin in here soon. We'll try to do that. Is that still an icicle or a raindrop?
That looks like an icicle.
We've had icicles on the sky cams here, which has also been kind of cool. The snow stuff has been fascinating to watch. Nice job, Action News Jax. Finn Carlin, one of our reporters, had a fun story up there in the Brunswick area with snowball fights and everything, if you didn't check it out. It's just kind of a neat couple of days. And now it's time to say goodbye. Can we bring back the warmer temperatures, please? We got our fix. We're done. We got baseball and softball season around the corner. Let's go. We got a softball game on Saturday. It's going to be freezing. I'm almost hoping they cancel it at this point. It's going to be so cold. Bring up the warmer temperatures. Summer needs to be here soon enough. Look at that. I mean, can you believe that's in Tallahassee? Just so cool, though, at the same time, to see it here in this part of the country. We'll be right back. Burgers or breakfast, you can get it all at Whataburger. Try something new on the menu or an all-time favorite like the Whataburger Patty Melt. And now you can have breakfast here at Whataburger 12 hours a day, 11 p.m. until 11 a.m. Menu items like the bacon taquito, sausage taquito, honey butter chicken biscuit. Whether you work the late night shift, just want a snack early in the morning to get your day started, or a little pick-me-up late in the morning, 12 hours a day, breakfast served, 11 p.m. until 11 a.m. A dozen locations in Jacksonville. You can order pickup or delivery and download the Whataburger app. New rewards members get free Whataburger items when placing their first online order. Just download the app. And for us coffee drinkers, Whataburger has all new hot coffee and iced coffee too. Satisfy that coffee craving at Whataburger 24/7, and it comes in a variety of flavors. Burgers, breakfast, coffee, and so much more. Whataburger, just like you like it.
People helping people. It's at the core of what Alive Credit Union is all about, and it's been that way for over 70 years. From the start in 1954 to today, the mission remains to inspire financial wellness and give you a financially fit lifestyle. Alive Credit Union and its employees are committed to not only serving their valued members, but also our community here in Northeast Florida. I had a chance to see that commitment firsthand as Alive partnered with our Action Sports Jacks 24/7 team to bring you Armada men's and women's soccer broadcasts. Inside the 18, it is a shot, and it's a goal! Chloe Chivers! And that connection to the community continues with Alive Credit Union's support of the Police Athletic League of Jacksonville. Alive Credit Union's commitment to our community also involves serving the financial needs of all first responders through the recent merger partnership with City and Police Federal Credit Union. Join the community and become a member of Alive Credit Union today. Find out the many ways you can be inspired in financial wellness at alivecu.coop.
I've been telling you about CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing for a long time now. Their drinking water systems remove up to 99% of contaminants. We've had a Connecticut water softener and drinking water system in our home for more than 7 years. You can see the difference whether you're washing clothes, the dishes, or what I like to do most, fill this up for some coffee every morning, and mostly all day. Remember, if you're not filtering your water, you are the filter. Don't be the filter. Right now, save $1,000 or more when you bundle a Connecticut Premier Softener with a Connecticut K5 drinking water system. The experts at CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing will test your water for free and determine your water score. Don't know your water score? CGC will find out and recommend the appropriate Connecticut water treatment solutions so you can improve it. Call 904-552-1242 or visit cgcwater.com. Ask about our 90-day love it or leave it guarantee. CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing, an authorized independent Connecticut dealer. Florida license number CFC 1432579. Baker Sports is local sports. Uniforms from Pop Warner and Little League to travel ball, high school, and college. They make you look good. They help you play good. Baker Sports has been helping families make memories that will last a lifetime with their Baker's Buckets. We've got a lot of these filled with baseballs and softballs in the garage. I've been throwing batting practice to Ty and Kaylee for years and also sit on the Baker's Bucket, catching Kaylee while she practices or pitching. Baker Sports is homegrown, and a lot of employees that used to play on local ball fields now work for Baker Sports, now helping you look good, play good, and make memories of your own. Visit Bakersport.com to see what Baker Sports can do for you. Custom apparel, Nike, Under Armour, Adidas, embroidery, screen printing, and more. Baker Sports is local sports from Jacksonville to anywhere in the Southeast. Bakersport.com. When it's time to get a new car for anyone in your family, just remember, nobody but Nimnick, the #1 Buick GMC dealer in Jacksonville. Get the latest price breaks on 2023 and 2024 models or the newest 2025 vehicles in the showroom on Phillips Highway or shop online at nimnickbuickgmc.com 24 hours a day. GMC Sierras, Yukons, and the redesigned Acadias, or get the all-new redesigned line with Buicks. It's nobody but Nimnick, and part of the reason why is this is a first-class buying experience here at Nimnick Buick GMC. You're not just a customer, you're a friend. This is about getting a vehicle that best fits you and getting you on the road, and also helping you and your family down the road. Nimnick has a treating you right guarantee, courtesy, respect, fairness. And most Buicks, GMCs, and Jacksonville's only Car Bravo dealer, nobody but Nimnick. Who has put in the most years and stands behind a better experience? Nobody but Nimnick. GMC. We are professional grade.
Welcome back to the Brent and Austen Show, streaming on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network.
2 days ago, I said, there's no chance. Are you kidding, Jerry Jones?
Not official yet.
So apparently the reports are Brian Schottenheimer, Dallas Cowboys deal.
Unbelievable.
Looming. I thought everybody had, what's to say about Kellen Moore? If everybody said Kellen Moore, and there was a report, I think Ed Werder, said yesterday that that Kellen Moore and the Cowboys didn't even use their allotted time. I don't know if there's significance to that. But meanwhile, like the Schottenheimer one basically went 2 days. The interview lasted
4 hours the first day, and they brought him back yesterday.
Crazy. It was almost like a second interview.
Right.
And they could do that with him. So pretty wild that if Schottenheimer gets the job, that's out of the blue, man.
Out of nowhere. Man, Cowboys fans would be so upset. And pair him with like Jason Witten or something.
Can you imagine like you were going from the potential of Dion to
Shoddy
to Schottenheimer? I mean, with all due respect, like Schottenheimer's a good dude too, by the way, and the pedigree's fine. What I think's fascinating about Schottenheimer is he was here with Urban, obviously, and he's going to recover from it.
Yeah,
like that. That's a wild thing which shows you how much of it was on Urban. By the way, like Baalke recovered like that year. So I'm not saying you never could recover. It's just wild to me that it was that bad here, and a few years later he's the head coach. Like that's not the way it usually goes. Usually some success. Like if Press Taylor is in 5 or 6 years, he lands in a spot and he ends up doing pretty well and he ends up being a head coach somewhere, I'm not surprised. I think the Schottenheimer one feels a bit surprising if he's the coach. And of all teams, the Dallas Cowboys. That's pretty wild. Wow. If that's the case. What other rumors going around? Oh, you just said that. So Dan Orlovsky.
Trevor Lawrence should want out of Jacksonville, and the Titans should trade the #1 pick to the Jaguars to get Trevor Lawrence. If I'm Trevor Lawrence, I'm the one who's spurring this.
Is that what he says?
That's exactly what he said. That's exactly what he said.
So if I'm Trevor Lawrence, I'm asking out.
Yes. And Titans should trade #1 pick for Trevor.
Huh. And he says it could work for both teams. How?
Trade for Trevor Lawrence. And if I was Trevor Lawrence, I would want the absolute heck out of Jacksonville.
I don't have no problem with that.
I would want the absolute heck out of the mess that is the
my
Jacksonville
challenge to
Jaguars
you, though,
right now.
Dan, here's my problem with that, Dan. Be reasonable. I'm going to trade my quarterback within the division.
If you're Jacksonville, first of all, if I'm Trevor Lawrence, I am spurring this. Like, if I want out of Jacksonville. And if you're Tennessee, realistically, we're sitting here and we're trying to get all this rebuild, and I would be someone to tell you, I think Tennessee's got a decent football roster. Better than the first pick worthy type roster. Shador, and I haven't studied Shador and Cam well enough to make a definitive statement on where exactly I think they might be or whatnot. And Travis Hunter special. You don't matter in that conference unless you get a quarterback. As special as Travis Hunter is.
You don't matter.
You don't matter.
All right, that's good enough. So the
just watching Cam Newton in the middle of that with his hat, it just makes it perfect.
By the way, I think I saw some stuff contractually that he can't even move on from his contract right yet. Like, he doesn't have the power to do that because the contract, even though he got it was an extension to his current contract.
Right.
So basically, he's under this rookie
for one more year
deal for at least another year. So I don't think it can even transpire. Like, well, I shouldn't say it can't. Anything can transpire, but I don't think he's got like an opening to be able to do that in any way. It would have to be the Jags really on board with it. Which, listen, we've seen it in the past. I mean, Jalen Ramsey wanted out. He got out. Again, there's a couple of things. Let's step back from this and the emotion of it. Can I see why Dan Orlovsky's saying that? Yeah, kind of. I mean, haven't you guys wondered it with all this going on? Like, haven't you wondered, hey, like you, the fan, have been so angry at Baalke alone that you have probably insinuated this is going to get Trevor too. And then you hear him at a news conference and he's like, oh, I'm fine with Baalke. And then you're like, well, okay, well, he's not going to move because of Baalke. But could he move because he wanted Liam Coen and they screwed it up? Could he move because he wanted Ben Johnson? They're screwing it up.
No.
I will go back to this. Yeah, the noise is the noise. And yes, you can back up the truck to Urban and how they screwed that up. But I don't think they screwed up the Doug Peterson stuff with Trevor. That wasn't. The last 3 years weren't screwing that up. That was a reasonable attempt. And I do think he helped Trevor in a lot of ways. So, Randy, I don't think Trevor hates the owner. He just gave him $275 million, bud. Like,
come on now.
Last time if somebody gives me a check, I ain't hating them.
Yeah.
For $275.
Especially if it hadn't even kicked in yet.
Yeah. and by the way, this organization took care of Trevor too. There wasn't they could have played hardball with him. Now that would have been reason to maybe be mad at the ownership if he did, but he didn't. They took care of him. And many people believe before he should have been. Not me, I was all on board with it. But so there's no animosity, I don't think, from Trevor. Is there, hey man, I'm 4 years into this, and am I getting the best out of myself? Is that my fault to some degree? But it's also, do I have the setup to be good? Well, here's what I would say to that. If you're really in a room with Trevor, you have a little bit of weight now in that conversation if his camp wanted to say that. Some of the weight is, well, he hasn't been healthy. And that's not his fault. It's just a circumstance, but he hasn't been healthy. The other thing is, well, what do you mean we haven't done stuff? Like, we went and drafted a first-round wide receiver, and he's going to the Pro Bowl. Like, we paid Christian Kirk more than anybody thought in the league we should pay Christian Kirk, and he's your best friend. We went and got Evan Ingram, and he made it to the Pro Bowl. We drafted a right tackle. We went and got a free agent center. When that didn't work out, like, yeah, we got Gabe Davis. Now, am I not? Again, they have made an effort to put more around Trevor Lawrence.
Opposite of Aaron Rodgers.
They really have. So not everything has transpired to be as good as it could have been or should have been or wanted to be, but they certainly have made the effort to do that. They have given him a voice, I think, in the organization. So I think somebody, Hamby's Burner or something, just said the national media doesn't get his ties and the Jacksonville. And I agree with this. This is one of those deals where the national media is looking at this from a disaster of the last couple of days and coming to this conclusion logical in their mind because, hey, Aaron Rodgers would maybe want to get out. Players in the past want to get out. Mm-hmm. I'm not telling you that their point is a misstep or wrong. I just don't think they do understand all of it. You gotta cover it on a day-to-day basis. You gotta live it on a day-to-day basis to know, listen, this organization actually has done, while they did him wrong in that rookie year by getting Urban, they have recovered from that to do a lot of things right for Trevor Lawrence.
And if you knew him personally or had any kind of a relationship with him or just seeing him all the time, of the franchise quarterbacks in the NFL, however many they are, obviously there's not 32, but of all of the franchise quarterbacks, he's probably the last one that would ever ask out. Legitimately.
Yeah, I think so too. I think he wants to be a part. I think he is committed to being here and making this work. And if it comes in form of failure, then so be it.
If you ask me right now, if it was up to the quarterbacks themselves, regardless of this, 10, 15 years down the line, which of the franchise quarterbacks would most want to retire with their current team? Trevor would be the odds-on favorite.
I think so too. And again, nobody does that anymore because not even Peyton Manning and Tom Brady and others. So I would never have him pegged for retirement in Jacksonville. But I do think your point is not wrong. I think he is invested here. He gets it here. He wants to be the guy to help turn it around. Again, he has a voice here, and this is about him. And if this fails, this is, I think in his mind, part of his own responsibility. He's not going to sit there and blame everybody else. I think he takes ownership of that role. I think he takes ownership of his contract, of his position. That's something that, like, let's be honest, Jalen Ramsey and Yannick Ngakoue and those kind of guys that wanted out didn't want to do. They wanted to blame somebody else for not being set up for success. And did they have a point in some of that? Maybe. But I don't feel like Trevor's the guy that's sitting here pointing fingers like that's Doug's fault, that's Shad's fault, that's his fault. Now, could everybody in the organization, could everybody in the locker room be like, what the hell? Yeah. Why wouldn't you be? If they were talking about your workplace right now, wouldn't you be like, what the hell? So, yeah, you can do that, but that doesn't necessarily mean you need out, you want out. Because I would tell you this now, one thing, this is why the locker room and Trevor and his news conference and everything else, they didn't necessarily go along with what everybody maybe thought they would say on the whole Trent Baalke front. Because that guy kind of took care of them. A lot of those guys are getting paid. That's the guy that helps get the check to them. They do not have the same vitriol, not even close, for Trent Baalke as you do. And the league does, and other coaches around the league do. Mm-hmm. Even maybe Doug's staff or people on the football staff. But the locker room does not feel that way. They don't look at it like that. They're tied to the coach, the coaching staff, and the people in that locker room, not the guys in the offices. So, like, they're not... I just don't, while they could be like, what the hell are we doing? I don't think they're losing sleep last night because Liam Coen pulled the rug and this organization looks bad for a day. Mm-hmm. I don't think so. Because let's be honest, they've been, those players and the coaching staff that was here, they're just as responsible for this organization looking bad at times. Like last year when they lost 5 out of 6 and didn't show up against the Tennessee Titans. They got to roll in this too, you know. So... And quite frankly, they've been insulated from that blame many times because of likes of Shad Khan, Press Taylor, Trent Baalke, then Doug Peterson.
He was the last of the 4.
I mean, the players have not... The fans have been very good to the players. It ain't their fault in a lot of ways. Now, on a Sunday, when a guy doesn't make a play, you get a little mad.
Sure.
But overall big picture, this fan base, which has been up in arms the last 15 months, has not taken it out on the players. They've had plenty of punching bags to be able to do that too.
Baalke and Press are the biggest
especially, two. Right? And Shad has kind of turned into that, and Doug for a little bit, surprisingly, ended up being that way based on what he said. So, yeah, they've been the last to really have to take the bullets in this situation. So I think, again, while Orlovsky, I get what he's saying from the outside looking in. And first of all, it's idiotic that you would trade within the division. Like Stephen A. Smith, he was on there, I think. Like, he was right. Like, why the hell would... And here's the deal. Here's what doesn't make sense about that, Orlovsky. And I like Dan Orlovsky, but this doesn't make sense. There ain't a quarterback at number 1 that's better than Trevor Lawrence.
Not even close.
Like, not even close,
Not
maybe.
even close.
Like, I think everybody in the league, you say Trevor Lawrence or one of these quarterbacks coming out. The only thing that they would lean on is the contract. That's the only thing they would, well, you get him on a rookie deal. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you get him on a rookie deal. You wouldn't be like, oh, yeah, he's better. He's better than Trevor. Yeah, they're better. I don't think any of the 32 would say that. Any of the GMs, the personnel people, the coaches. I might be wrong, but you get my point. I mean, it makes no sense. Like, even if it could be done, if it were willing to be done, it makes no sense. Now, what you'd get is even more than that, probably, right? You'd get another pick and other stuff. But the bottom line is, and listen, the Jags aren't in that position. The Jags have a pretty decent football team, I think we could say. They are not like, hey, we need to accumulate more picks to get more blue chip players. Like, they need to do those things.
Yeah, we just beat them twice this year, Dan. We just beat them twice.
Without Trevor.
Without him. Like,
with Mac Jones.
No, it's a ratings reach.
So, again, listen, We all say stuff sometimes that kind of like going through our mind. I think Dan's off on this one. Orlovsky's off on this one.
It's the best sports take that, or football take that Stephen A's had in a minute.
All right, let's do this. We got to take a time out near the top of the hour here on the Brent and Austen show, and I think Austin's going to join us. So the word is he had to get a drug test down there after his workout. So maybe he didn't drink enough water. It's taken a while. But we'll hopefully get him in here soon, get his thoughts on what's going on. And we do want to look ahead a little bit now. Like, seriously, I'm going to assume Liam Coen is out of the mix. Is Joe Brady the guy? Is Joe Brady right now, would he be the guy that's going to land this job here in Jacksonville?
Some envelope participants probably are still grasping for a little hope.
How about that? We will take a look at Joe Brady and who else and how this process is going to play out here in Jacksonville coming up on the Brent Austen Show on the Action Sports Jacks 24/7 network. When it's time to get a new car for anyone in your family, just remember, nobody but Nimnick, the #1 Buick GMC dealer in Jacksonville. Get the latest price breaks on 2023 and 2024 models or the newest 2025 vehicles in the showroom on Phillips Highway or shop online at NimnickBuickGMC.com 24 hours a day. GMC Sierras, Yukons, and the redesigned Acadias, or get the all-new redesigned line with Buicks. It's nobody but Nimnick, and part of the reason why is this is a first-class buying experience here at Nimnick Buick GMC. You're not just a customer, you're a friend. This is about getting a vehicle that best fits you and getting you on the road, and also helping you and your family down the road. Nimnick has a treating you right guarantee, courtesy, respect, fairness, and most Buicks, GMCs, and Jacksonville's only Car Bravo dealer, nobody but Nimnick. Who has put in the most years and stands behind a better experience? Nobody but Nimnick. GMC. We are professional grade. Happy New Year for the UNF Ospreys, and basketball season is in the teeth of conference play right now. A slow start for the men's team out of the gates with 3 straight losses, but then they broke through in the win column with a win over Bellarmine. The offense scored 98 points in that one. A long way to go, including a stretch the next few weeks with a chance to go on a winning streak. 8 home games in the next 3 weeks for the men's and women's basketball team combined. So check out UNFOspreys.com for the latest in news, schedules, results, and tickets. UNF Arena is a great place to watch a game, so go check them out. And while the hoop teams are battling some snow while on the road, the spring sports season has already arrived with the men's tennis program notching its first win under new coach John Collins. Swoop with the Ospreys in the winter and the spring, inside and outside. Check out UNFOspreys.com for all things Ospreys. I've been telling you about CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing for a long time now. Their drinking water systems remove up to 99% of contaminants. We've had a Connecticut water softener and drinking water system in our home for more than 7 years. You can see the difference whether you're washing clothes, the dishes, or what I like to do most, fill this up for some coffee every morning, and mostly all day. Remember, if you're not filtering your water, you are the filter. Don't be the filter. Right now, save $1,000 or more when you bundle a Connecticut Premier Softener with a Connecticut K5 drinking water system. The experts at CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing will test your water for free and determine your water score. Don't know your water score? CGC will find out and recommend the appropriate Connecticut water treatment solutions so you can improve it. Call 904-552-1242 or visit cgcwater.com. Ask about our 90-day love it or leave it guarantee. CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing, an authorized independent Connecticut dealer. Florida license number CFC 1432579.
When it comes to trucks, I know exactly what I want. And at Bozard Ford, they make it easy to get exactly that. Let's go make this truck a little more my style. With Bozard Built, I can create my perfect truck right here. Lift kit? Check. Premium wheels? You bet. Advanced lighting package? Oh yeah. The Bozard team works their magic. From bumper to tailgate, I'm making this truck mine. It's everything that I wanted and more. From the field to the gym to weekend adventures. This truck's built for my journey. Bozard Built. Customized for your lifestyle, built to exceed your expectations. Check out the inventory and available options at bozardbuilt.com. Unleash your dream ride. Customized, covered, and Bozard approved.
New to town or always been in town, everyone is always looking for a good pizza place. Our place is Donato's Pizza. We love it and still do love it. When I tell my family I'm coming to Donato's, they say, wait a minute, you got to order some for us. So this is not all for me. Let me tell you what the Martineaus get when we put an order in. Well, pepperoni pizza, we usually get more than one of these. And then there's the works, a little bit of everything. And then this is the pizza that can be polarizing for some out there. I don't know why. Hawaiian pizza. Some love it, some don't. At Donato's, you're going to love it, especially with that cinnamon sprinkled on top. Try the pizza my family likes or try your favorite. Right now, you can use the code BRENT20 and get 20% off your order. Every viewer and listener is important to us. And at Donato's Pizza, every piece is important. From fresh ingredients to the dedicated team members and you, the valued customer. Donato's Pizza, where every piece comes together for a winning combination. Jack's Beach and Mandarin locations. Donato's Pizza, every piece is important.
Welcome back to the Brent and Austen Show, streaming on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network.
All right, so we got a few hired. Ben Johnson, Mike Vrabel, Aaron Glenn. Certainly looked like the Jags were interested in Johnson and Glenn. Coen back to Tampa. At least that's the latest for now. I haven't seen the latest, if there's any more to that. But that's the situation with the Cowboys. There's word that Schottenheimer could be any minute. The Raiders feel like right now they're playing their own thing with maybe Pete Carroll. I saw Todd Monken high up on their odds list, and then even a Liam Coen because of Spy Tech, I would assume, is rumored there, potentially. They don't look like they're in a hurry in terms of the reports, at least, coming out of Las Vegas. And then the Jags, like, how much of a hurry will they be in? I don't think much. They have Patrick Graham in today, Robert Saleh in tomorrow as scheduled, but it's not going to be limited to those guys. It certainly looks like... and I will say this, the Jags positioned themselves just because they hadn't invited Joe Brady back. They didn't have to tell the world that Joe Brady was going to be part of this. And so that part, they could have said all along, hey, we were going to wait until after. We were doing the ones we could do now. And then we could still go Kellen Moore, Joe Brady, after the games. We interviewed them the first time around. We wanted to go back to them either way. So, like, they can still position this. Now, whether people will believe them or not, whatever. But I do think, journalistically, they never offered Liam Coen the job. They couldn't. They didn't even have the Rooney Rule met. They never got to the chance to do that with Ben Johnson. So, in their own world, even though I don't think many of us would believe it, they could say, oh, we weren't going with Ben Johnson. We weren't going with Liam Coen. We were really thinking Joe Brady the whole time.
They could,
right? So I guess in essence, they could still get their top guy because we've just assumed that the top guy was going to be Ben Johnson or the top guy is going to be Liam Coen. And even before the Ben Johnson news broke in Chicago, some people thought Liam Coen was still going to be their guy. So maybe Liam Coen was their guy all along. And that's the one that they really, again, made Shad move. And now Joe Brady in the mix, Todd Monken, Kellen Moore. Looks like Kellen Moore could be available. Let's talk about those three guys in a minute. When we do that noon hour here, Brent Martineau, Austen Lane scheduled to join us. Not really sure what's happening, if he's going to get in because he's got a drug test to render down there in South Florida. That happens occasionally. He's had to leave the show in the past for that. He's got a UFC fight coming up, date to be determined, but... as he said, it rhymes with Barch, so he's getting in shape for that one, coming off a win in the last quarter of 2024. Jason Hamby here as well. Oh, Austin's been in the lobby for the last 20 minutes, he says. But we don't see him. So I'll let you guys figure that out. And meanwhile, I want to tell everybody about Happy New Year from everyone at Nimnick Buick GMC. Nimnick's excited to offer even more choices and better prices for you, ensuring your car buying experience is second to none. If you're wondering where to go for better buying experience, it's simple. Nobody but Nimnick. Here's to another year of driving forward together. Hey, you can get the Car Bravo certified dealership is Nimnick Buick GMC. So if you're looking for a used car, check out Car Bravo and Nimnicht. Trading in your old vehicle, don't forget who gives you top dollar for your trade. Nobody but Nimnicht. And check out the truck line, of course. You can still save up to $10,000 off select new GMC Sierra 1500s. Get low interest financing like 0.0%. That's still available here as we enter the new year with Nimnicht Buick GMC. We are professional grade. Check out Nimnicht Buick GMC off Phillips Highway or nimnichtbuickgmc.com. Hung over from partying last night after the Baalke news. There you go. Whatever it takes. Whatever it takes. That is good. So, all right, the Jags basically go in I think, a wide net direction, assuming Liam Coen is out of the mix. I think that's what we have to do now. And you've got a couple of defensive guys that I don't think the Jags really want to go with. I don't think they want to go defense. I think they would like to go offense. So does Joe Brady, Kellen Moore, Todd Monken still do anything for you? Is the question. Let's bring in Austen Lane, and he's down in South Florida. Got a good workout in, passed the drug test.
What up, man?
Been sitting there, I think, for 20 minutes, but didn't tell us.
Well, I'm using my cell phone, so I can't tell you guys that I'm in it if I'm using my cell phone to record. But then during the break, I finally got a chance to. Yeah, I don't know what happened, man. Like, it said I was in the lobby and I was muted, so I was waiting for someone to come, tag me in, Brent. We're supposed to be like a tag team here.
Tag team in, yeah. We were waiting. We would have done that a while ago, but I guess Hamby figured it out. So you're in now. Hopefully you passed the drug test? Trick was referring to him partying and hungover last night. He was referring to Austin being late for the show, hungover and partying.
Oh, I wish. No. Unfortunately, I got my 8 hours in last night, and then got some pretty good sparring in this morning. If you ever heard of a guy by the name of Gino Dos Santos, former UFC heavyweight champion, ended up getting some rounds in with him. And even though I think he's in his 40s right now, spoiler alert, the guy can still bring it. So that was fun this morning. And then, I get back here getting ready to do the show, and then I get a phone call from a number, which I didn't really recognize, but I'm like, I'll take it just in case. And sure enough, it was the drug testing people outside of where I'm staying at, because I had to, tell them my address. And lo and behold, I, did the business before I went sparring, and I'm depleted. And I have nothing left to give, Brent. So I had to replenish and rehydrate for 20 minutes, just chug water. And then thankfully, finally, I got to produce a sample.
There you go. That's your morning in a nutshell.
Yes.
Hopefully you passed and everything goes well. They really, if you're wondering if they drug test for the UFC, they do. Because we've experienced it quite a bit. And it seems like they do it between 10 and 1.
Yeah, well, so here's the thing, because I have to say when I'm home, because they can also come to the gym and everything, but then I don't want to tell them the time in the gym, and then maybe I leave early, or I just don't I don't want to messing up my training, so I'd rather just kind of tell them when I'm at home. But yes, they do. I mean, to me, Brent, I take it as a kind of a badge of honor, because I feel maybe people are intimidated by my size and my physique, so maybe I'm getting drug tested even more.
That might be it. Killer Tofu says, I'd love to hear your post-workout drink. Well, that's the shake, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you usually have a shake.
Well, shake is my morning routine. So I do a protein shake, some berries, some kale, a bunch of things in that. But then my post-workout, I do electrolyte powder, I do a little cayenne pepper, I do baking soda, and I do a little sea salt.
There you go. There's the. You guys might need that after some of these shows, so that might want to be your post-show drink if you're here with us for 3 hours a day.
If you don't have an emotional support animal, baking soda, salt, cayenne pepper, and some electrolytes will do the trick too as well.
Well, this week has been a wild week already, and what a wild day yesterday. I mean, unbelievable to see what transpired. From the Coen stuff on our show at 10:15 yesterday morning to a 3 o'clock news of Trent Baalke being fired and the pivot. Ian Rappaport said yesterday in one of his reports, and I initially tweeted it and then I took it down because I'm I don't need to be getting into it with Ian Rappaport. But his thought was, well, the timing is surprising that Baalke's fired, but it's not surprising that he ends up being fired. And I'm like, yeah, it's still surprising because this Shad stood by Baalke for had chance to fire him 2.5 weeks ago and didn't. Like the ultimate chance. And he didn't fire him at any time after the Detroit loss. And he didn't fire him after Urban Meyer. And he didn't fire him before Urban Meyer. I mean, come on. Like, we wondered if it would ever happen. And even though we had said, and I had heard, like, hey, I don't think he's locked into this position in the organization at the end of this coaching cycle, I did think that he would probably be a part of the organization in some capacity regardless. So I disagree with Ian Rappaport. Like, I love why after the fact is it never surprising to people in our business? Yay, just admit it. You had no idea it was coming. Like, no idea that they were going to fire Trent Baalke yesterday. We all didn't have any idea because there was no evidence that they would fire him or they would have done it sooner.
Look at it like this, Brent. All right. And yeah, and I get the press conference with Shad Khan was left open-ended. But when Ben Johnson came out, or at least when the speculation came out that it wasn't the right structure, and right after that, Shad Khan doesn't make a move against maybe the most coveted, head coach of the NFL coming from Detroit. If he didn't make a move then, I didn't think he was going to make a move at all. I didn't think it was going to take the Liam Coen situation to finally push us over the edge and say, okay, we got to make a change. So yeah, this is Ian Rappaport. Hey, friend of the show, almost made him cry, Ian Rappaport. This is Ian Rappaport just coming out and saying, trying to cover all bases. Like, yeah, we're not surprised it happened. Like, yeah, no one's really shocked that it happened because it should have probably happened a long time ago. But I think the timing is definitely a little shocking where you didn't do it after Ben Johnson. We think you're going to probably do it at all.
Yeah. So what does it say? Was it the right move? It's several moves and missteps of the week that haven't gone well, but is it a move in the positive direction? We spent a lot of our show yesterday saying, hey, you have got to take a step back now. This is a mess, but you now have to take a step back and make a series of good moves. And to me, by 3:00 in the afternoon yesterday, that was the first one.
Yeah. And we talked about this yesterday a little bit, Brent. Like, does Shad Khan have a little egg on his face right now because, it's like 3-4 weeks too late? Sure. Maybe he does. Maybe, he's probably got a whole 6-egg omelet on his face right now. But you know what? You made the right decision. Like, you did what you had to do. And yeah, it took a little longer than it should have, but at least now you're showing like you're trying to course correct. You're trying to get things back on track. And I'm never going to fault anybody for that, right? So, yes, it should have happened a long time ago, I think. It's been a long time coming, but at least now you're trying to make steps into righting all your wrongs. And I get it. Shad Khan's a great guy. Tony Khan, great people. The Diana Rossini will be the first one to tell you that, I guess. But at the end of the day, two things can be true. They can be great people, but they can also maybe have some missteps in terms of how they've handled this entire organization.
Yeah, I think it's Josina Anderson, too, has kind of come out and been like that.
Sorry.
Right?
My bad. I didn't mean to misquote. Yeah, so sorry. Yeah, Josina Anderson, sorry.
Yeah, it's so interesting to almost watch the national folks make sure they keep their sources or try to get new ones, which, by the way, I am not criticizing because we get this criticism all the time. Oh, Brent's just afraid that he won't get a credential. It's like, dude, I haven't been kicked off the plane yet. And that was even after Houston when Doug Peterson didn't like what I said at all in a news conference, okay? So I don't think we're worried about
untouchable, man. Don't let me tell you differently, Brent. You're untouchable.
I don't think we're worried about the press credential.
And I'm a freelancer. Hey, Brent, are we like the most untouchable people in this city covering the Jaguars?
I wouldn't say untouchable. I don't look at it as untouchable. But I also
have zero benefits. I have zero health insurance. Well, I mean, I have the UFC health insurance, but I'm saying I got zero benefits over here, and it's by choice.
So it was interesting to watch that kind of conversation go yesterday, though, with Josina Anderson and whatever else, kind of defending the organization on a day where, listen, it's been tough the last couple of weeks to defend the organization of what some of the things. But I do think you see, we kept getting this too little, too late, too little, too late. And I just don't believe with that sentiment because of what you just said. Because now at least you have put yourself in a position to correct course sooner than waiting another year, another month, another 3 years. Like, that is significant. Like, we didn't see it coming. And this is a good step in the right process, right? To then, now you've got to make more. And so the next steps are, well, maybe it is more, like Kellen Moore. Is it Joe Brady? Is it Todd Monken? Is it Saleh? Is it Patrick Graham? We continue to believe, at least I do, Austin, and what do you think? Does this open up the net, and now you invite more in, you recalibrate, and you still lean offense, even though you might be on your third offensive choice at best of the 5 that you interviewed in the first go-around?
Yeah, I mean, listen, have the optics been bad the past couple weeks? Sure. Have you maybe lost out on some candidates because how it was structured? Sure. But now you're almost taking a precedent and saying, what we were in the past, like, we're trying to change now. And we're trying to change for the better. And I think, potential coaching candidates are going to notice that. Like, yeah, I understand. Maybe it's not the most coveted job right now, and maybe there's all these bad optics. It's still one of 32 jobs in the NFL to be an NFL head coach. Okay? So there's still going to be some demand there. Now, whether you lose your first, 3 choices, there's still some candidates out there, like you mentioned. Like, I think Joe Brady would be willing to do a lot of interesting things. I think Cliff Kingsbury, we talked about Brent a little bit. The resume speaks for itself. Look where he's done with Jane Daniels. But, like, does Trevor Lawrence fit into the Cliff Kingsbury mold of the quarterback that he needs to succeed? And I think we can both sit here and say we're not quite sure about that. So I'm a little hesitant about Kingsbury, but I do like Brady. Let me ask you guys this, and Hamby, feel free to join in here as well. I mean, obviously, Robert Saleh is a name that's been tied to this team since, it seems like day one now. And Kellen Moore is getting some traction as well. What would you guys rather see? Kellen Moore or Robert Saleh here? Because I think Brady is, like, above those guys, with all due respect. I think Brady is like what Liam Coen we thought was going to be. I would be excited for Brady.
Yeah, this is this is a measuring stick of there's so much psychology in this from our point of view. We haven't sat in a room with any of these guys, right? You sit in a room with Saleh, and I'm guarantee you that Saleh is going to win you over in a room. Like, he can lead and do all those things. I think the reason why we don't want Kellen Moore in Jacksonville, or don't feel as good about Kellen Moore in Jacksonville, is because we feel like we know more about him. Like, he's had interviews before. Why hasn't he got the job? Why is Schottenheimer maybe going to get the job over him in Dallas if we feel like him and Dak Prescott in Dallas make a lot of sense? We also now have seen, him not do so great with the Chargers and Justin Herbert. He didn't work out in Dallas, where they picked Mike McCarthy over him. It is working out in Philly, but at the same time, do we give him the credit because Philly's been good the last couple of years anyway? So I think there's, like, psychology involved in the Kellen Moore part of this for me. I think the reason why we like Brady, Coen, Ben Johnson is because there's unknown. Now, there's more known on Johnson, but really Coen and Brady, we don't know. There's not a huge sample size, but we like the fact of the unknown that this guy could be Sean McVay, and we just don't know it, and we're going to tap into it, right? I think that's what intrigues me, at least. Maybe I'm just talking from my standpoint. And what we know about Robert Saleh is 20-36. And while I don't pin it all on him, it's still 20-36. That's not a great record, Hamby. So I think that's why we're leaning toward the younger guy in Brady, why we were leaning with the Coens of the world even more than a Kellen Moore. The guy that I would replace with and then get way more excited about is Monken, because I still feel like Monken could be the biggest win of this cycle if you hire him. I just think nobody really wants to hire him right now because they want to try all these unknown things.
Yeah, I think that's it. Well, look, you talk about Saleh. Well, yeah, we know 20-36, but we also know Zach Wilson and Timbo Doyle. And that's the other thing with Saleh, is that we know who he had to work with. And name me a coach that could have won with Zach Wilson and Doyle and all those other guys. And what was his name? Trevor Siemian. Didn't he play a couple games for them too a couple years ago? I don't know one. Sean McVay is not winning with those 3 guys as quarterback with the lack of offensive weapons that they had, especially in the first 2 years. Andy Reid, same thing. Maybe they would have done a little bit better than 20-36, but the point remains the same. So Saleh, to your point, Austin, I think is the one defensive guy that we're all good with, because he is that leader. that's where it is the unknown, the lack thereof with Kellen Moore. But it's just like, look, I got to be honest. The look matters. The look matters. When we're trying to get excited for coaches that we don't know a whole lot about their personality, the look matters. Robert Saleh is absolutely jacked and he's intimidating. That helps.
I'm going to go run stadiums if they get him.
Like that helps.
Yeah.
D'Amico Ryans is the same thing. Obviously, he's a former player. But Kellen Moore kind of just seems like a regular dude. And should you apply the same thing? Because you could make the argument that Todd Monken the same thing.
So does Ben Johnson, quite frankly.
Yeah, but it's like those guys are pinned. Here's the point. Is the difference is those guys are pinned as X's and O geniuses. This is the same thing with Mike McDaniel that's allowed him to get away with it is because he's a savant in a sense. Ben Johnson's pinned it that way. Coen has been pinned that way. Kellen Moore's never been pinned that way. So if you're not going to be the imposing leader, rah dude, you got to be the genius. McVay is a genius. Nobody thinks Kellen Moore's like that.
Yeah, it's not a bad call. And listen, I understand, and I'm really curious to see now how this is going to all shake out, because to me, it almost seemed like Saleh was more of the Trent Baalke guy. Depending on how much pull Trent Baalke had in this entire operation, which I feel like it was a lot, I feel like Baalke was more of trying to get Saleh in. So now I'm wondering if he's gone and, whether they put a new GM in place first, whether it's going to be the coach GM connection, whatever the case may be. I wonder if there's still going to be a lot of hype around Robert Saleh being the head coach here or in Jacksonville if Trent Baalke's gone. Because we've heard kind of Trevor say this a little bit. We've heard rumblings that they want an offensive-minded guy, that they want someone that's going to help out Trevor. And yeah, Hamby, to echo your point, I think Robert Saleh, with Zach Wilson, how good could you have done? And keep in mind, Robert Saleh is a defensive guy. The defense, at least his first couple years in New York, wasn't the problem. They were a top 5 defense.
True.
So I think it speaks volumes in terms of, all right, well, we want to say he's a bad coach and everything. Well, his side of the ball, when he was there, played pretty damn good. Now, last year, this past season, I think everyone was kind of in a mess. Sauce Gardner regressed a little bit, but they were still a respectable defense. So let's keep that in mind, everybody. And it's what would you rather have in terms of rehashing? Would you rather have a guy in Robert Saleh who's shown that he can put some pretty good defense on the field? Now we need an offensive coordinator to call those plays, and that's the most important thing. Or a guy like Cliff Kingsbury, who was in Arizona, who got some pretty good ball out of Kyler Murray, but at the end, man, when it went bad, it went pretty bad.
Yeah, here's the thing about why do you like Brady? Okay, 35 years old, unknown, at once was kind of viewed as a little bit of a whiz kid, but so was Moore. All right? So Moore, he's 36 and he's been interviewed for 5 or 6 different head coaching jobs, I think it is. So he's been viewed that way as well. Brady, though, the reason why I think we like the idea of him, at least I do, we've seen it up close right now, most recently with the turnaround of Josh Allen and Buffalo in the last year and a half. But I really think this stems around the idea of Josh Allen. Josh Allen was a talented guy coming out. He did have some issues in terms of accuracy and other things. He also had a turnover problem as soon as a year ago, as recently as a year ago. Well, those are a lot of things that actually measure up with Trevor. Now, Trevor's not going to run like Josh Allen. I don't even think Trevor has the arm of Josh Allen. Might not have some of the physical traits, but he definitely has talent. Mm-hmm. He had a turnover issue just a year ago. That's been his biggest flaw in a Jags uniform and in the NFL. And he also had to be kind of rescued to a degree, coached up to tap into all the talent that is there. Well, those are ingredients that we have seen multiple people help Josh Allen out, but we have seen that guy do it. Josh Allen is a very unusual talent in the NFL. To get where he is now is probably, or maybe the guy that's going to win the MVP, maybe a chance to go to the Super Bowl. His rise from year one when Jalen Ramsey called him trash to where he is, there was a reason why Ramsey called him trash. He was completing 54% of his passes. He wasn't that far off from an Anthony Richardson kind of guy that we talk about. Not from a running standpoint, but from an accuracy standpoint. And so look what people have been able to do with him. And by the way, I think Dorsey deserves some credit for that along the way. And then obviously the shift to Brady. And the big move for Brady is, hey, we're going to run the football. We're going to help our quarterback. We're not going to put it all on our quarterback. And look what's happened. They have helped a guy who used to turn the football over quite a bit, not turn the football over. That, to me, is probably the biggest jump Trevor Lawrence can make from a consistency basis, and we just saw it happen with Josh Allen. So if this guy can do it there, can he do it here? And hey, here's the other thing. We all know Baltimore's not the Philadelphia Eagles in terms of stardom on offense. Buffalo. Buffalo's not they are not star-studded. They have good players, but they seem like they've gotten a lot out of the players that they have as well, along with Josh Allen, with Brady as their guy. You know what I mean? So, hey, the Jags, do we have blue chippers all over the place on offense? No. Looks like you do have one in Brian Thomas Jr., but we definitely have capable players that it feels like you can get more out of Evan Ingram. You can get more out of Travis Etienne and Tank Bigsby if you do the right thing. So I think that's why we're intrigued with Joe Brady so much.
No, without a doubt, because I believe one has overachieved expectations in terms of what the offense looks like, and one I think is kind of the status quo. And it's nothing against Kellen Moore, but I think Kellen Moore has found himself in great situations. He found himself in Dallas when Dak Prescott was arguably maybe a top 5 quarterback if you look back at the numbers, right? And then he finds himself in Philadelphia where, you have a former MVP candidate in Jalen Hurts, and then you get arguably the best running back in the league in Saquon Barkley. Yeah, your offense better look pretty damn good. And this is all to say, too, behind the frustrations of an A.J. Brown who felt like they weren't throwing the ball enough, who felt like he wasn't getting the ball enough. So there was a little, controversy there, even though they keep winning football games. On the other side, and I think, if I remember, I think me and Hamby kind of shared this agreement, like, I didn't really have a lot of expectations for Buffalo. I thought they were going to regress this year just because of the people that they lost. Like you lost Gabe Davis. You don't really have a true one receiver. Maybe your best receiver doesn't even wear shoes when he goes grocery shopping. Like, we didn't know what they had. And the fact that you can take all those guys and like, yeah, you try to get Amari Cooper, but he hasn't really done anything. Like, you have Khalil Shakir. But, like, if you watch how that offense plays, and I've spoken this before a little bit, this is a testament to, I think, Joe Brady, where he knows what these guys are good at. And he optimizes what they're good at. Let's get Khalil Shakir in motion. Let's get him in the slot. Let's use his speed. Let's get him open. Like, listen, I think if you rank their skill positions, like, yeah, Kincaid's pretty good and Dawson Knox is an okay tight end, but if you rank their skill position guys, set aside from the running back, just wide receivers, tight ends, you would probably put them on the outside 20. Like, I would probably take Jacksonville's skill guy. I would take Brian Thomas Jr. Heck, I would even take Christian Kirk, and hopefully Gabe Davis figures it out, but I would take Parker Washington. I would take those guys over the Bills. So then when we talk about that, yeah, I get it. There's a big difference right now between Trevor Lawrence and Josh Allen. I understand that. But we've showed that with Tank Bigsby, with Travis Etienne, you can have a formidable run game, hopefully, if offensive line wants to block a little more, and you can have some success. So, yeah, this is why I'm all in, Brent, on Joe Brady over Kellen Moore.
Yeah, I think people would be. I think Brady fits in that mold. So we'll see. Hey, let's do this. I got to take a break. We come back more with Austen Lane down in South Florida as he gets ready for his next UFC fight in Fight Camp. Hamby and Brent Martineau here on the Action Sports Jacks 24/7 network. We'll keep talking about it. It seems a little quiet now. Now everything's going to wait and see what happens. Like this is going to play out longer. We thought there was a chance if you sat here yesterday at 10 a.m. as we started our show that hey, there could be a coach in place by the weekend. The only way that happens now is if there's a good conversation with Liam Coen, and that's the guy you want to go with. I don't feel that. I feel like now this is going to take some time here in Jacksonville once again. So we're going to have plenty of time to talk about these candidates. We will see. Here's once again the statement from Shad Khan that was allowed yesterday. Several discussions with Trent Baalke. We both arrived at the conclusion it's in our mutual best interest to respectfully separate effective immediately. And by the way, like that statement part, while it looked as though fired, and that's what everybody said and kind of what it is, it seems like Trent Baalke even was like maybe he did say, you can't get the guy you want with me in the middle of it. Or was this just a nice statement, politically correct statement? Yeah, take it whatever way you want. We'll be right back. It's one of the hot spots in the area.
Welcome you to String Sports Brewery out at the beach. Big crowd on hand tonight. The fans are here.
And now, the newest hot spot at the beach is open. String Sports Brewery in Jax Beach has opened its doors with rave reviews.
We're going to be fans forever.
Cozy up to the bar. Grab a seat in the sports-themed restaurant. Or grab a seat outside and feel that breeze coming off the beach as the weather warms. Just like the original location in Springfield, try the popular beer menu and come for lunch or dinner too, because the food is fantastic. He's got some exciting news heading into 2025 as well. Christian Kirk. It's where we hosted Jags Report Live in the football season, and the String Sports Brewery staff can't wait to host you. Hey, welcome back here to String Sports Brewery. And if you haven't checked out the new location in Jax Beach, which many of you have, you got to do it. String Sports Brewery, now with 2 locations in Springfield and now open in Jax Beach on Penman Road.
2024 provided plenty of memorable moments for the Jacksonville Armada on the pitch, including another conference championship game appearance for Tommy Krasanovich's under-23 men's team.
Listen in the dying moments.
Debuting this year for the first time, the girls in blue, as the Armada fielded a women's under-23 side in the WPSL and made its presence known with some highlight moments.
Potential goal of the season.
Then attention turned to the future, with MLS Next teams representing the Armada badge in 3 age divisions this fall, including an under-19 squad ranking among the best in the state. Those teams are a big focus on Fleet and Footy, covering the big soccer stories each week on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network.
I'll put one in the back of the net for you.
Join us for player profiles, fun interviews, and the very latest on the Fleet and all things footy. That's every Thursday at 2 p.m.
You trust CGC to make your water great, and now you can trust CGC with your plumbing needs as well. Fast, convenient scheduling, licensed and insured. A quick call away at 904-552-1242.
You never know when you're going to have an issue with a shower, toilet, or maybe it's a sink that sometimes is easy to fix. All right, let's be honest. I'm not fixing anything. I'm totally staging this because when I have a plumbing problem, I call CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing.
Trained professionals, transparent pricing, customer satisfaction. Small problem or even a bigger issue. Right now, save 10% off a new Rinnai tankless water heater. The experts with 25 years of experience at CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing can do it all. Call 904-552-1242 or visit cgcwater.com. For a limited time, CGC is waiving the trip charge on all related plumbing calls. CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing, an authorized independent Connecticut dealer. Florida license number CFC 1432579.
Here on Spring Sports Media Day on Action Sports Jax.
It's an opportunity, an education beyond the classroom and the sports arena. Life skills, testing skills, social skills. It's called High School 912, a program focused on maximizing the growth of students in academics, sports, and life. And here's your chance to get involved. If you're a local business, or if you just want to make a donation to help support programs like ACT and SAT boot camps, career days, Leadership Academy, Financial Literacy Academy, and so much more.
Another Nice High School Panther, Jack Cole.
High School 912 supports and hosts high school sporting events and several media days throughout the year. For more information on how you can get involved, visit jaxhighschool912.com.
Baker Sports is local sports. Uniforms from Pop Warner and Little League to travel ball, high school, and college. They make you look good. They help you play good. Baker Sports has been helping families make memories that will last a lifetime with their Baker's Buckets. We've got a lot of these filled with baseballs and softballs in the garage. I've been throwing batting practice to Ty and Kaylee for years, and also sit on the Baker's Bucket, catching Kaylee while she practices or pitching. Yeah! Baker Sports is homegrown, and a lot of employees that used to play on local ball fields now work for Baker Sports, now helping you look good, play good, and make memories of your own. Visit Bakersport.com to see what Baker Sports can do for you. Custom apparel, Nike, Under Armour, Adidas, embroidery, screen printing, and more. Baker Sports. is local sports. From Jacksonville to anywhere in the Southeast, Bakersport.com.
Welcome back to the Brent and Austen Show, streaming on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network.
What are we going to do now in Jacksonville? That when anything goes wrong in this organization, we can't now defer to the default of it's that guy's fault. I mean, anything that has gone wrong in the last 4 years, anything of why they didn't get a guy, or why they didn't get a free agent, or why they didn't get a deal done, or why they didn't do this, or why they didn't do that, is like,
great question.
Is Trent Baalke.
I mean,
Who's going to be the next guy, right? Like, no, listen, that's not a defense of him, but it really has been. Like, it's every reason they haven't got something done for some. Heck, if they did not get the stadium pass, it would have been because of Trent Baalke. Like, where are we going next? Where are we going next in Jacksonville?
It'll be your fault, Brent.
Well, I think Shad Khan's been getting a lot of stuff too, Brent, the past couple weeks.
Yeah, I mean, well, of course, ever since he kept him on. But yeah, Shad has been getting, you're right. And now does it go back to Shad? Or will, like, sincerely, if we end up getting a situation with, like, Baselli in a role of some kind, will then he become that guy, right? Because that's one of the interesting things here. There's an interesting dynamic going on that right now people are down on Baselli because it's perceived that all he did the last 2 weeks was defend Trent Baalke, right? So, which I really think people are looking at that in a very small vacuum of what Baselli did on earlier this week and even 2 weeks ago when he had his show with Prisco. That's a small sample. Like, he's also been critical over the years at times of the organization on those kind of shows. But right now in their mind, it's like Baselli. So I think Baselli, if he's part of this organization in some leadership capacity in the front office, I think he then will become that guy a little bit, which is also more credence to what I said earlier in the show. You have to be careful what role you put Baselli in, because I don't know if you want, like, the guy that's been one of the biggest people in the organization's history to be the punching bag for the organization. Yeah. You know what I mean?
No, listen, Brent, like, we talked about it before on the show. If you need me to sign up as the chief ESG, the executive scapegoat, I'm your guy. Any kind of moves that get made. Eric Armstead playing defensive end. Yeah, that was my idea. I'll take the blame for it. I'll eat it. Okay. You know what I'm saying? Not really knowing how to split up the Travis Etienne, Tank Bigsby reps. That was on me, man. All right. That was totally on me. Trevor Lawrence getting hurt. Yeah, I know we want to say it was Elsha's ear and everything, and it was a dirty hit. I put him there, okay? I'll take the blame. There you go, man.
Yeah.
Chief executive scapegoat.
I don't even.
I'm your guy, Sean.
Yeah, Whiskey Mike says, and I keep getting this from Tommy McManus on social media. He issued some kind of an apology, and I was like, I don't know what he's apologizing for. I don't know what he said before.
What did I miss?
Well, yeah, basically apologize because he was saying, like, other reasons why could it be, I think is what it was, about why Ben Johnson took the job. And then he eventually just said, like, hey, I've got a real good source that said it was because of Baalke, blah, blah, blah. It's the same source that everybody in town has had, a guy that people know around here. I think it's pretty obvious who the source is. But so now people are, like, applauding Tom McManus for coming out and saying, hey, yeah, I think it was really because of this. And what always catches me here, just again, it's just a warning. It's no criticism of anything. This is a great example of Tom McManus just came out and said what you wanted to hear. You've got to, like, you wanted to hear him say that because now he agrees with you. Like, it's part of the thing that we do on a day-in, day basis. If I say exactly what you want to hear and it agrees with you, nice job, Brent. If it doesn't, Brent's an idiot. Brent's defending the organization. So, like, there's just a little bit of that goes on. And I think right now we lose that piece because Baalke's gone. Going here on forward, you lose that piece.
But Brent, I don't think it's about, like, oh, this guy's not agreeing with me. I just think that it's more about being right or wrong, right? Like, it's not so much like, why doesn't this guy think like I think? Like, yeah, I know, especially in the political landscape, we encounter that all the time. I just think like this whole ordeal, and once again, I haven't really seen it a lot with Tommy McManus, but I mean, dude's a solid guy. He's always been really cool to me. I got a bunch of respect for that guy. And if he came out and fessed up and said he was wrong, then more power to you, because that takes a lot of cojones to even do that. But I don't think it's necessarily of like wanting to be agreed with. It's just like, you know, if you're wrong, people are going to call you out on it, and maybe you're not wrong, right? But it's like people are cemented in their ways, and this all comes back to whether it was Trent Baalke's fault or not. And I think, lo and behold, whatever people thought about it, he's gone now, and he's gone for a reason. So take that for how you want.
Yeah. So and again, so what this does is circle back to me, and I'm kind of kidding, right? Like, who are we going to blame? I do think we just have to be very careful in Jacksonville to think that because Baalke is gone, now everything's fixed. That is a dangerous way to think. If you're Shad Khan, if you're anybody in the organization, I think even people outside the organization, sure, Trent, all this roadblock stuff, getting coaches, doing other things. Is it part of the problem? Has it been? The messaging, the relationships, all these other things, transparency, things that we've talked about for months and months and months, big part of the problem. Doesn't mean it solves all the issues. Neither does the next coach coming in here. So I think it's interesting. One layer of this that we haven't really talked yet about is it does open up the GM job. So we don't have this laundry list of GMs, right? We have no idea the names, the hottest guys, the what's the next GM, what's the best GM. But I think what we do know, Austen, is the GM is coming a little bit down the road, right? I mean, I think this is pretty clear in Jacksonville, where they're going to go get a head coach first and then figure out the GM. And I haven't even thought enough about it or said it out loud enough to know, are there potholes in that? Like, is that a dangerous way to go? Look what the Raiders are doing. They didn't get Ben Johnson, but then they go get Spytek, who was Brady's guy, and now he's going to help lead the charge for the next coach. So it's an interesting way, as the Raiders have pivoted midstream in their search, essentially, to say, all right, well, we couldn't get Ben Johnson, so we're going to now have this guy lead the way in our search. The Jags are not necessarily pivoting like that. They pivot off Baalke leading the search, but they're still saying, hey, we want the coach in here first to then help everything else get in place.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, because we haven't really seen this a lot the past decade, where we're going to have two guys that essentially I think are going to be friends going into this whole thing, right? It's not going to be an arranged marriage, if you will. Like there's Brent, there's going to be chemistry. These people have dated for a while. They have a relationship already. Like, they know each other. We like it. So, yeah, I don't have a laundry list of GMs, you know. All I need from the GM is to get along with whatever head coach we go with and then go from there. Because, once again, that's something that's been really lacking in this organization in terms of everyone being on the same page. It's more of been like, okay, this is who you have to work for now. You guys better get along, make it work. You don't have to do that anymore. It's going to be, what do you need? What do you want? And we can provide that for you.
Yeah, I don't know. Ethan Waugh is going to help run this thing. I don't know if I think he'll be the next guy, but I do think we have to keep an eye on Shad has done that, right? Shad has certainly done that, but does he learn from doing that? And listen, I like Ethan Waugh's a nice guy. He might be a capable guy. What's interesting, though, is Trent Baalke came over here with Dave Caldwell in his 8th season in 2020. He was in the building. He got elevated to GM. Doug Marrone came over here with Gus Bradley in 2016 as a line coach, got elevated eventually with the help of Tom Coughlin to the head coach role. So there's definitely some trend around here that you put a guy in the building. We wondered the minute Ethan Waugh got hired here in Jacksonville from San Francisco, if he was the next head coach, GM of the Jags. So Ethan Waugh, when he came from San Francisco here, was like, well, keep an eye on that guy as being the next GM, because there's a trend here with Shad as gets in the building, seamless transition, gets in there. I don't see that being the case right now, even because of two things, Austen. One, I think Shad just had a very eye-opening experience this week, and doing things the way he's been doing them might not be the norm going forward. And number two, I think we have to continue to go back to this is coach-centric. If it's coach-centric, then who's the coach want to work with, whoever that next coach is?
No, without a doubt. And once again, this is really Shad Khan's time to show what he's learned, honestly. And, I said this, it was this last Thursday, I think, when I was in town, where it was just like, we want to point Baalke at everything. We want to bring out the clowns and all this stuff, and it's Baalke, Baalke, Baalke. But everyone keep in mind, he was just a small cog in the giant machine. And I think that the machine itself needs to be fixed. It needs to be reintegrated. And that's on Shad Khan. So, yeah, one would think, and once again, maybe this is where the EVP comes into play for more of an advisement role. We'll see how the inner circle is going to work here now, Brent. But you got to learn from your mistakes, right? That's any good businessman, whether it's football, Fortune 500 company, whatever. I don't care. Any job, like when things don't go your way, you learn from them and you course correct. And he has an opportunity to do this now, and I hope that he does. And I hope somebody's in his ear reminding him of, like, hey, remember what happened when we kind of just did it the old way, where it was like, all right, we got a GM here, then the GM picks. No, like, let's try something new. Let's do what other teams do, and let's have some success there.
Do you, Hamby asked this question today, and I think everybody's asked this question. But I want to make sure we know the stuff out here is there was some thought that Liam Coen might be the lead candidate in Jacksonville even like a week ago. Like you saw some of that stuff going around too, right? Like who knew? We didn't. But I think everybody, Ben Johnson, I did poll questions like 80% Ben Johnson, right? Liam Coen, though, I think some thought, hey, that he could be the guy. I guess what Hamby asked this morning in our rundown, we really haven't hit this yet, this matter of fact, if there had been a reset 2 weeks ago, are we convinced that Ben Johnson would be the coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars right now? Are you? I know some people are. I'm asking, are you?
I mean, are you saying that if they would have got rid of Baalke before like the cycle even started, would that have had a better chance of Johnson coming to Jacksonville?
No, I'm not asking a better chance. I'm asking, would it have landed Ben Johnson in Jack? Like I'm asking, I know it would have had a better chance. I'm saying, do you think he'd be the coach today in Jacksonville?
No, I still think he would have went to Chicago.
Really? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm not. But, I don't know if I feel that way, but I feel like there's a chance of that. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, it's hindsight's 20/20, right? Because once again, and I've been very adamant about this, I think the reason why Ben Johnson went to Chicago was because they had more of a vision than what Jacksonville did. So if Shad Khan lets Trent Baalke go, has a plan in place, you prop that out, then it's like, all right, well, Jacksonville's got a vision itself. So I don't know. But you know how I felt about the whole situation? I thought like Chicago was a better setup to go to, whether Trent Baalke's there or not. So I'm not going to go against my word now. So I would say you probably had a better shot of landing Ben Johnson, but I think Chicago was always going to be the destination.
Yeah. So anyway, that's, hey, by the way, each their own here. I think a lot of people think automatically if that had been done that Ben Johnson would be the guy. I agree with you. I'm not sure. I think they were both two good jobs to have. And so there are a lot of different reasons, and we don't know Ben Johnson's personal reasons for either one. We have heard, like everybody else has, I think, heard by now, that, hey, Ben Johnson liked Trevor Lawrence. Like, he liked this job opportunity. He didn't like the structure. I think that's crystal clear. I think that's been reported on. I think that's been talked about for weeks and weeks. So it is what it is. Just a question that Hamby had asked that I wanted to get into. Go ahead.
Well, and to kind of piggyback off that question, though, I think it begs another question of, was Liam Coen really the guy because that's what Trent Baalke wanted?
Right?
Yes.
Yes.
Because, once again, you had somebody in Shad Khan's ear to start the season off saying they had the best roster ever assembled, right? So Shad Khan's getting his intel from someplace. Who's to say Trent Baalke didn't go, Ben Johnson, like, yeah, everyone's saying he's a great guy. We probably not going to land him. So let's go and pivot. Liam Coen, rumors that he might be staying in Tampa Bay. We can interview him. Maybe not a high demand right now. That's a shoo-in. That's a layup. Let's go ahead and say that Liam Coen is our guy. And I think once that fell through and Shad Khan saw that, it's like, oh, okay, so you're kind of feeding me some bad intel. I got to start anew.
Yeah, it's a really interesting way. Like, Austen, I'm kind of convinced. Well, I shouldn't say I'm convinced. I battle in my own mind, genuinely, whether Shad made this move yesterday because Liam Coen said no and went back to Tampa, or because if you really look at the process, the Jags weren't even in a position to go make an offer to Coen or Ben Johnson and try to beat out Chicago and Tampa because their process hadn't got to the point where they could even do that. And they were 2+ weeks into the process, and they couldn't even be in a position to do that because today is the day they can finally do that once Patrick Graham interviews and they fulfill the Rooney Rule. So I think the process of this pissed off Shad just as much as potentially losing either Ben Johnson or Liam Coen. You know what I mean?
I mean, in that case, like, hey, Shad, Trent, like, I'm half black, half Norwegian. You should have just interviewed me. I would have came by.
Well, they could have. Like, that's essentially what they did with Eddie George in Chicago.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I mean, and again, this is not a Rooney. Listen, people have made a mockery of the Rooney Rule. My wife's sitting there yesterday, and they're like, hey, well, why didn't they do this? Why didn't they interview somebody else on Monday? Why didn't they? And I said to her, and I think about this. I think this is real. The Patriots made a mockery of it with Byron Leftwich and Pep Hamilton being interviewed. And they got pushback on that because they wanted their guy. I think Chicago kind of just did the same thing with the Eddie George play. I think Shad really does. He was trying to go about doing things the right way with reverence to the Rooney Rule, but he also would look really bad if he's making a mockery of the Rooney Rule as a minority owner. So he has to really be careful positioning this. So you can't just go, hey, they could have brought in Byron Leftwich again last weekend if they really wanted to be in position to do this. But my point here is, I think the whole thing, if you're leading the search and Trent Baalke, this finally caught up to him. He screwed up because he wasn't prepared and ready to make an offer when the other teams did because he didn't play it the right way from even a scheduling standpoint.
Sure. I mean, we can call it a lack of preparation, but I just thought that he got a little too cocky because they thought that Liam Coen was going to be the layup. Yeah. Because he didn't have a threat to go anywhere else. So it was like, oh, yeah, well, Liam Cohen's there. This is our guy. No worries. And then when you don't get him, that was like the final straw. Because I think Shad Khan was told the whole time, like, we'll get Liam Coen. Like, that's nothing. That's just a formality at this point. And then when he backed out and then goes back to Tampa, I think Shad Khan kind of saw the writing on the wall, and it's like, that was supposed to be our guy. I was told this is going to be our guy, and now he doesn't want to come here because, the guy telling me the information, I got to cut you loose.
Yeah, I got one more thought on this, okay? And somebody just asked, I think, a minute ago about these young guys, and they know they want the GM. Listen, I think the young guys have learned a lot. I think the guys have learned, hey, get in this kind of situation. You want to be set up for success. You want alignment. They know all the things. They've learned from other people's mistakes. But are they making a mockery, in a sense, themselves of the NFL interview process? Austin, it is stunning to me that we have 2 jobs filled that these guys didn't even take. I'm sorry, not 2 jobs filled. We have 2 instances this week with Ben Johnson and Liam Coen that these are first-time guys potentially getting a head coaching job, and they didn't even take a second interview. I mean, Ben Johnson could have taken the interviews and still picked Chicago. Didn't even take that. The NFL has elongated this process to find the best candidates, to give minorities and others the full due chance. And basically, even some of these candidates are circumventing that, like Ben Johnson, and saying, okay, we back-channeled it. We're good. We're going. I'm getting $13 million. Didn't even need to come in after the virtual interview. I don't think the NFL is going to like that.
No, it's not a good look. But once again, I think it shows you maybe how bad the first interviews, at least in their eyes, how they felt that they went with the Jacksonville Jaguars. And maybe that's all stemmed on Trent Baalke. Maybe some of that has to do with Shad Khan as well. Whatever the case may be. When you have a chance to interview with a team, to use that said interview as a bargaining chip, to maybe try to cultivate more money with that said interview, but you're so over it, you're just like, forget it, I'm just going to sign right now. That speaks very loudly of just, I think, the situation that was in Jacksonville.
Yeah. So it's just interesting to me to watch all this other stuff. Now, it'll still play out in a long way, in a way. But Aaron Glenn getting the New York Jets job, I think that helps this cycle, right? He might be the only minority candidate that lands. We'll see if Robert Saleh, we'll see if a Patrick Graham. So it'll be interesting to watch how the rest of this unfolds. All right, we got to get out of here. Austin, glad you passed the drug test. The good news, Brian Thomas Jr. going to the Pro Bowl and also a finalist for Offensive Rookie of the Year. We'll see you on CBS 47 and Fox 30 and end the show on fireworks once again. Oh, and a fire Trent Baalke too. If you need a quality play this football season at your home, call That One Painter First Coast. Locally owned and operated, experienced employees, no builder-grade materials. And there's more, and for that, we throw it to Noah Schlicksup. That One Painter First Coast can apparently help your kicking game, too.
Well, after my failure on skinny sticks last year on Creekside game day, I've spent a lot of time out here at Creekside practicing my kicks. There's only one issue. How is that even possible? The good news is I know exactly who can help. That One Painter can handle all your painting needs, from field goal posts to cabinets to stucco. They got you covered. Though they may not be able to help with my kicking, they can certainly help with the posts. Call That One Painter First Coast today for all your painting needs at 904-495-1373.
People helping people. It's at the core of what Alive Credit Union is all about, and it's been that way for over 70 years. From the start in 1954 to today, the mission remains to inspire financial wellness and give you a financially fit lifestyle. Alive Credit Union and its employees are committed to not only serving their valued members, but also our community here in Northeast Florida. I had a chance to see that commitment firsthand as Alive partnered with our Action Sports Jacks 24/7 team to bring you Armada men's and women's soccer broadcasts. Inside the 18, it is a shot, and it's a goal! Chloe Chivers! And that connection to the community continues with Alive Credit Union's support of the Police Athletic League of Jacksonville. Alive Credit Union's commitment to our community also involves serving the financial needs of all first responders through the recent merger partnership with City and Police Federal Credit Union. Join the community and become a member of Alive Credit Union today. Find out the many ways you can be inspired in financial wellness at alivecu.coop.
Burgers or breakfast, you can get it all at Whataburger. Try something new on the menu or an all-time favorite like the Whataburger Patty Melt. And now you can have breakfast here at Whataburger 12 hours a day, 11 p.m. until 11 a.m. Menu items like the bacon taquito, sausage taquito, honey butter chicken biscuit. Whether you work the late night shift, just want a snack early in the morning to get your day started, or a little pick-me-up late in the morning, 12 hours a day, breakfast served, 11 p.m. until 11 a.m. A dozen locations in Jacksonville. You can order pickup or delivery and download the Whataburger app. New rewards members get free Whataburger items when placing their first online order. Just download the app. And for us coffee drinkers, Whataburger has all new hot coffee and iced coffee too. Satisfy that coffee craving at Whataburger 24/7, and it comes in a variety of flavors. Burgers, breakfast, coffee, and so much more. Whataburger, just like you like it.
For the game day hustle and every day in between. Juggling my show, Jag Social, to going under the Friday night lights and a social life, it's a daily tournament. But this ride, MVP status. The all-new 2024 Lincoln Nautilus isn't just my car, it's my personal locker room, office on the go, and VIP lounge on wheels. Let's talk tech. My profile remembers everything from customizing my dash display to setting the ambient lighting and my signature scent. And wireless charging, essential for live tweeting scores. Whether I'm packing for a beach day with friends or heading to the gym, there's space for every passion. After dominating all day, this becomes my recovery zone. The massage feature is like having a personal PT on call. Life's a non-stop game, but with this ride, I'm always on my A game. The 2024 Lincoln Nautilus. Drive your passion.
If you don't see a pit, it ain't legit. When you hear that, you think Bono's Pit Barbecue, a staple in Northeast Florida now for 75 years. A place that feels like home with friendly service, a meeting place for friends, family, or business occasions. On the menu, the corn nuggets are a favorite in our house, but there's something for everyone. Sandwiches, platters, salads, sides, desserts, and family feasts. You see Bono